I'd only buy cheese that I can actually see.
Differently interesting extra time communion for minicab drivers.
Take the money and sit back down again.
Breastfeeding mums.
Oh, you've not been giving it its breakfast again, have you?
And people disturbed by urban foxes engaged in the act of lovemaking behind their bins.
Anybody there?
The two mics. Overworked, overweight, overpaid, overnight. On Talksport.
Look at the light!
Airtime, paper time, space time or anything. They're just nutters.
Look at the light!
This guy, Glenn, used to be the chairman of United Biscuits.
Yes, he did, yeah.
So what does he know about football?
Well, he knows a lot about custard creams,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
That's not necessarily helpful. This is Talksport. We are the two mics, and it's time to say a very, very good morning at the end of another very, very decent week, I would say, to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a good morning to you, Mike. And I have to say, without being offensive or in any way trying to knock you or have a go at you or anything like that, you completely misunderstand the tactics that Mr. Pochettino, the Spurs boss, employed in his game tonight. He didn't want to win that game.
Oh, is that why you
said
No
way in the world.
It was a very bad day for Tottenham?
No. He's fooling everybody now, but he doesn't fool me.
Really?
He didn't want to win the game. He wants to get out of that Europa League competition as soon as possible because he sees exactly how Leicester have this fantastically clear field in front of them. They're running to a possible Premier League title.
I think that is a disgrace, and I think if you want to forfeit a game, you should just forfeit it and just hold your hands up at the beginning and say, look, you know what? We don't want to be any part of this competition, and we would rather that you just kicked us out of it now and don't bother playing the game.
Unfortunately, they won't let you do that.
Well, 3,400 Spurs fans went all the way to Dortmund to watch that game.
Yeah,
how do you think they feel?
Terrific support. Well, I think they'll feel the same way. I think they'll feel quite confident.
No, they won't.
Having got there and seen the team get blasted because there were 7 changes to the team.
No.
They're now coming home thinking, wow, we're going to go out of this competition now. That leaves the way clear for a serious challenge on the Premier League title.
All football fans...
No, you're being ridiculous.
No, all football fans
want to travel. Why do you think he made 7 changes?
Well, because
he wasn't going to win the game with 7 changes.
Because he hasn't got the nous to win anything.
Well, he's got the nous to win a lot of things.
No,
he's
I don't
a very,
think so.
very good manager.
Have a look at the last
few. You.
Well, I'm not a football manager.
No, but you're a thickhead, and he's not a thickhead.
Really?
He knew exactly what he was doing tonight.
So now you're going to resort to abusing me just because I'm better than you at actually predicting scores, I'm better than you at analysing football, and I'm better than you at telling you why certain teams will do better than others. That's why you're getting upset.
No, you just can't appreciate the thinking pattern of Mr. Pochettino tonight, and I can.
Pochettino?
Yeah, Pochettino.
Well, suddenly there's an H in the end of his name.
Pochettino. I knew exactly what he was doing. I knew exactly where he's coming from, and I admire his ability to think that one through and execute what was clearly a predetermined plan to go out of the Europa League because it's a bomb competition.
No, I don't agree at all. I mean, the point about Pochettino...
And leave the way clear for a challenge on the Premier League title.
But, I mean, that's ridiculous because what you're doing there is assuming, one, that they can win the Premier League. And I mean, if
he
look
thinks they can.
Well, he thinks they can, but you cannot engender victory in football if you keep losing. And if you deliberately throw games, and that is never going to get the team in a proper state of mind to actually go out and win the next game.
Well, as you pointed out, he made 7 changes. That's 7 players who won't be starting the next Premier League game.
Yeah, but they're playing Aston Villa on Sunday.
I know. So they don't need the winning mentality that you keep talking about because they weren't in the losing team. They were in the losing team.
No, it's about
and they won't be in the team challenging for the Premier League title.
No, what you're talking about is a situation where you've got a rotating squad. Everybody's part of the same team. Harry Kane came on as a substitute. He'll be playing against Aston Villa. You know, they have created a losing mentality, which I think is entirely wrong.
I think they've also got the Aston Villa fixture levelled exactly right. I mean, without being disrespectful to Aston Villa, although it's hard not to be disrespectful to Aston Villa this season, they're not.
Don't give me that fake sanctimonious nonsense.
No,
you don't care about Aston Villa.
No, I don't care about Aston Villa.
Exactly.
No, I don't.
So why do you care about being disrespectful to them?
Well, all I'm saying is that you don't like to sort of mock and deride clubs who are having a hard time, like Aston Villa.
Well, you don't have to mock them, but they're not very good.
Well, they're not very good. This is the point I'm making. So he doesn't really have to put his team into a winning mentality sort of frame of mind as they fly back on the aeroplane from Germany.
But that's my
because
point.
he knows that they can easily beat Aston Villa.
Of course. So why does he have to change his team in order to play a much better team, Borussia Dortmund?
Yeah.
Why not give himself a chance of maybe only losing 1-0 and then they can go through and have some chance of winning the entire thing?
The consequences of really competing with Borussia Dortmund over 2 legs is that you will tire your players out. Worse, you could suffer severe injuries because they're a very competitive team.
But that's the business they're in.
And thirdly, if you got through, you're then saddling yourself with more European games.
How are you saddling yourself?
Because they're in extra fixtures now.
They're in the quarter-final. Why did they bother beating Fiorentina in the last round?
Because then they weren't as close to making a proper concerted challenge for the Premier League title as they are now.
Your argument
is
full of as many holes as Swiss cheese.
No.
All right, let me ask you this.
You just don't understand the mentality of a football manager.
I've been talking.
I have got it right.
There's no need to start shouting at me, OK? Calm down, take a chill pill, have another glass of Red Bull, and just listen to me for a second, OK? I was talking to some Spurs fans on Twitter. a little bit earlier on. Now, I know that you don't. I know that you don't like to talk
Lucky Spurs fans.
You don't like to talk to people on Twitter. You just like to put tweets out promoting your own agenda, right?
No.
Now, what do you think the motto of Spurs Football Club is?
It was something like, don't kill the cockerel.
No, that's not the motto.
Right, OK, what is it?
It is to dare is to do.
To dare is to do.
Now, what do you think to dare is to do means?
Well, it's a rubbishy, what's it called, a motto?
It's a motto.
Yeah, rubbish, and it's like, like most mottos are just a load of nonsense.
What's Everton's motto?
Written in Latin. Everton's motto is nil satis nisi optimum.
It's written in Latin?
Yes.
Oh, right. So is that rubbish as well?
No, it's good.
It's not rubbish?
It means nothing but the best.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Well, that's not right, is it?
Yeah, of course it is.
How about nothing but the medium?
No.
How about nothing but the mediocre?
No, I don't think...
How about maybe just short it to nothing?
That's right. The point is, you've got to get a hierarchy of priorities at this time of the year. You probably don't understand that, OK? And
I understand it very well. I think Mauricio Pochettino has dropped a massive clanger by deliberately throwing this game, if that's what he's done. And if he has deliberately thrown this game...
I think he's pulled a masterstroke.
I think he should be punished.
I think he's pulled a masterstroke.
Spurs fans don't agree. Spurs fans think that what he's done is a disgrace.
No, most Spurs fans don't. Most Spurs fans are grateful.
3,400 people
spend
a lot of money going to Dortmund.
Great adventure.
To watch them being humiliated.
Well, I'm sorry, but they weren't humiliated in my eye. In my eye, they what they've done is they've made it's like a battle, really. They've made a measured withdrawal from the battlefield because they have a bigger battle to face. And I think it's eminently sensible, pragmatic, stoic, and may yet be the reason why Spurs could take the Premier League title. No doubt about it.
Well, here's what...
I know exactly what I'm talking about, by the way.
Here's what one Spurs fan said, right?
Oh, yeah?
The fans have been fully behind him all season and backed him in rotation and the way that Tottenham have played. Today was a disgrace and a disappointment, and it will change the atmosphere at White Hart Lane.
That's
so that shows you what you know.
Fan. That's one Spurs fan.
Well, I don't think I will find one Spurs fan tonight who thinks that Mauricio Pochettino deliberately putting out a team that's to be humiliated is a good idea.
I will. If I ask, as a Spurs fan out there who agrees with me, you're delighted now that you're out of the Europa League, and that's not going to cloud your midweek fixture list. It's not going to, cloud your fixture list by giving you unnecessary midweek fixtures. So I would say it's a phased withdrawal.
So far, the jury is not actually out. The jury is against you. Roy says it's Porky's talking dross as usual. Yeah. Silverware is silverware. I bet he'd be fuming if it was Everton doing this in Europe. Steve says, right, that's it. I demand Mike Parry goes to underdo a drug test. What a load of old nonsense.
OK, how come Harold, who's a Spurs fan from Tunbridge Wells in Kent, just tells us MG is wrong, Porky is right?
Well, let's talk to him and find out, shall we?
Yeah.
Harold, a very good morning to you.
How you doing, all right?
Very well indeed.
Very well, Harold. Good to hear from you.
What do you want to say, Harold?
You haven't got a clue about football at all.
Who are you talking to, Parry?
No,
Excuse me, Porky, if you don't mind.
Who are you talking to me?
He's talking to you.
Yes.
You're saying I haven't got a clue about football?
You're basing this, what happened tonight, on Pochettino's nous about football.
No, I'm saying he made a mistake. I think he's admitted that, hasn't he?
No, I think he made a mistake by not playing a weakened side against Fiorentina.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly right. Well, he made a mistake then, and he made a mistake now.
No, it's only one mistake.
Exactly.
Paul Merson said when we beat Man City, he thought the Spurs coaches would sit down and basically say the Europa League is out now because it's the ultimate chance of winning the Premier League. Let me give you some facts now, right? Mm-hmm. Before Christmas, when Spurs were in the Europa League, after we played the Europa League, there was a possible chance of 18 points.
Yes.
We won 8 out of 18.
Yes.
1-2, drawn 2, lost 2.
I understand that perfectly. I understand where you're coming from.
Don't interrupt him, Porky.
No, let me finish.
Yeah, I want you to finish. I want you to finish, Harold.
The 10 games, hold on, the 10 games after, when we didn't have Europa League, we got 25 points out of a possible 30.
Exactly.
What season?
Hang on,
Harold. What season are you talking about now?
What do you mean, what season? We're talking about this season.
Talking about this season?
This season. Yes.
Keep up, Mike.
But you're not out of the Europa League yet.
No, but listen to me. What I'm saying is, right, now, I think he's realised too late that Leicester are pulling away from us now because they're only playing once a week.
Exactly.
Now,
that's exactly the point I made.
When Spurs were only playing once a week, we were gaining basically 25 points out of a possible 30.
Exactly.
Now that we're back in the Europa League, listen to the 7 games with 1, 2, lost 2 and drawn. Lost.
Well, hang on.
You're absolutely right.
When you were out of the League Cup, right? It didn't get any better. You didn't beat West Ham. Didn't beat Arsenal. I mean, you can't argue that at all. Your facts are incorrect.
You've not listened to me.
Harold,
you haven't listened to me.
Your facts are incorrect, Harold.
They're
his facts are right.
Yeah, they are.
His facts are right.
His facts are incorrect.
He's demolished your argument, MG. Demolished it.
Since back in the
Stop
Europa
interrupting
League,
him.
Mr. Graham.
Hey?
Since we've been back in the Europa League, we've played 7 games.
Yeah.
And we've lost. We've drawn against Arsenal.
Yeah.
We lost against West Ham.
Yeah.
And we're out the Cup to Palace.
Yes.
Since the Europa League
did you want to stay in the FA Cup or not?
Of course you did.
Yes, so he should have stayed in the FA Cup and bombed out the Europa League.
Exactly.
Oh, right. He's made 2 mistakes then.
No, he hasn't. He's made 1 mistake.
No, he's made
Europa
2.
League, but
Stop
he's
interrupting him.
He's corrected
Harold,
that.
he's made 2 mistakes then, hasn't he?
Because now what he's saying is basically we need to do a Leicester.
Exactly.
To have 1 game a week.
Exactly.
And he's made, and unfortunately.
So he wanted to be out the FA. So maybe he threw the.
Should have done.
Well, so maybe he threw the FA Cup game as well then.
Yeah, he probably did as well.
He might have done.
Well, that's a disgrace,
but what
Harold.
I'm saying
it's a disgrace, mate.
Well, you can say it's a disgrace, but I think it's too late anyway. I don't think we'll catch Leicester.
So I don't think he will either, and I think what he's done now is he's proven Tottenham to be a bottling team.
No,
unfortunately
for Tottenham fans, I think he's realised too late.
He's going to end up with nothing this season, and Tottenham fans are not going to be happy. And
you're probably right.
And you were one of those Tottenham fans that went to Dortmund last night, spent a great deal of money to watch that. I think you'd be very disappointed, wouldn't you?
Well, it depends what you want, because I've got a season ticket holder, mate.
Well, you don't want to go to Dortmund and watch your team getting humiliated, do you?
No, but I would. Unfortunately, Mike, Spurs are in the Europa League every season. We can do the Europa League any day.
Yeah,
exactly.
But this is the only season where Spurs can win the Premier League.
But it sounds to me, Harold, that you're now agreeing with me instead of disagreeing with me.
No, he's not. He knows exactly what he's saying.
You are?
No, he's not.
No, I'm saying is...
You know you're beating MG. Give it up.
No, Harold is now agreeing with me.
He's not.
So therefore, he knows nothing about football, or we both know an awful lot about it. No. But unfortunately for you, Mr. Parry, the time is against us. So we'll have to hold on until a moment from now and carry on. Loads coming up. Winners and losers... not winners and losers, the Porky Quiz, I should say, coming up.
Yeah, come on. You're flustered.
The two Reagans.
Very flustered.
Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan a little bit later on. This is Talksport.
On DAB, digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Bosh Bosh, Zoom Zoom, Wallop.
And it's in!
Talksport.
This is Talksport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Coming up later in this hour, Billy Garton, the former Man United player, is going to join us on their game against Liverpool, which was another pretty humiliating performance, you'd have to say, by Louis van Gaal's lot. But we'll find out what his excuses are in a little while. We've got loads of tweets and things. But before I go on, Mr. Parry, I've just got something to tell you because I received a package today.
Oh, yes.
Which was actually not intended for me. But it was sent to me so that I could hand it to you.
Right.
And it's from somebody
nice.
called...
Who's that from?
It's from David, right? And he says this: I was recently in Moscow and found this little present for Porky.
Right.
Now, the first thought I had was, is this the way that they pass things to each other? You know, people who are involved in that sort of espionage business.
Yes.
You know, somehow the package goes from one guy to another through what can only be described as an intermediary. He says, I would be grateful if you could pass it on to him, as I'm concerned it might not see the light of day if I send it directly to him. He says the lady in the shop.
Why would that be?
Well, hang on. The lady in the shop where the gift was purchased advised that the text means something like "Go Russia," and I'm sure Porky will agree with the sentiment.
Go Russia.
It comes in a very nice bag.
Let's
I'm
have a
going to
look.
show it to you, and I'll take a picture of it later. Right.
Yes.
First, I'll show you the bag. It's a sort of Russian doll type bag.
Right.
And there's some Russian,
I've got a Russian doll at home.
Cyrillic script there. Right.
Oh yes, indeed.
Now I open it up, and it looks like a.
Actually, shouldn't I be opening it?
Would you like? Well, I just wanted to make sure it was suitable.
It's my present, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if there's any hidden sort of message in it.
Okay.
I want to make sure there isn't any sort of anything that falls out of it.
Okay.
Now it says on it something else in Russian.
Right.
And there's a number 54.
Oh, 54.
Which I don't know whether that's the age of the person.
Could that be Studio 54? Or
No,
something
well,
like that,
it might
maybe?
be the age of somebody.
The Moscow version of Studio 54?
It says 54. Is that a size?
I don't know. Where's it made?
I don't know.
Oh, look what it's got on the front. Now, this is quite amazing. It's a picture of Mr. Putin.
I'll get you to hold this up in a little while.
the Russian president.
Yeah. With a bear.
Well,
and a hunting rifle.
With a hunting rifle slung around his back with his parka coat on.
Yeah.
And he's hunting bear. So we'll take a picture of this and put it out quite soon.
We will.
Okay?
Yeah.
I think that's excellent. That is very, very good indeed. It looks big enough for me.
You sure it's not some kind of secret message?
No, not at all. I'm very grateful for that. Who's that come from?
It's come from, as I say, a man called David. I'm not going to give his second name out.
Right.
Because it might be, in some way, might compromise him.
And could you give me a note on that so I can write to him and thank him for that very kind present?
I'll give you the note that he sent, but it doesn't have a return address, I'm afraid.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
So it's all very mysterious.
Well, here,
Are you sure there's not some kind of secret message being passed?
Hang on, let me have a look, because I've got to say thank you for this. Right. Mike, I was recently in Moscow and found this little present.
Read that out.
Yeah, OK. Kind regards, David. Well, Dave, thanks very much indeed. It's very, very kind of you. He says he's going to see us both at Dingwall's in June.
Oh, good. So he's going to come.
That's OK, so we'll see that.
Excellent.
Listen, whilst we're just talking about listeners, can I just say a big hello to a pal of ours?
Yes.
Hang on a second. A pal of ours. Here we go. Now, this pal of ours is named Mason, OK?
OK.
And Mason is kind of self-appointed as the chairman of the Two Mikes fan club.
Oh, is he?
Down in a place called Cheam in Surrey.
Cheam, I know it well.
It's a very nice town,
It is a nice part of town.
And he has obviously access to DVD. He's
accessed it.
Yes, he's
not. He's watched it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But we're going to send him a Simon anyway.
Okay.
And he's not a fan of the podcast, which I mean, we get a lot of people every morning saying, "Where's the podcast?" If you happen to be bladderated and send it out late. But young Mason is one who actually.
I'm not going to put up with this much longer. You know,
is
false accusations.
What?
Because you do absolutely nothing to make sure that the podcast works in any way, shape, or form.
That's not fine.
So I'm not going to put up with you having to go at me over it.
And also, his dad is a big fan as well.
Yeah.
Darren is his father, OK?
Yeah.
Young Mason is the chap who runs the fan club in that part of the world. Just want to say a big thank you for your support and to all of you who support us so admirably. And we managed this morning to make sure that young Mason got a T-shirt.
Oh, good.
From the distribution depot,
Excellent.
which, funnily enough, is down there in Cheam.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Well done.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Now, let me read you a few tweets that we've got in.
Okay.
You can tweet us, of course, at the Two Mikes, at Mike Parry, at IROMG.
Yep.
Sean says, MG, I think you should do what Porky's sisters used to do, make him stand on the sidelines, allowing you to talk sense.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
Phantom says, Spurs lost to Leicester at home. That Harold guy's a plank. They were on a good run then. Spurs were playing Europa League games and FA Cup during their good run.
Right.
So that's the particular idea sent down the drain.
Yeah, certainly is.
Let me see what we've got here. I've got a whole load of other stuff here, but it's all moving
well, don't
around.
worry, we can get through that.
It's all moving around.
Now, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about, man.
go on.
This is a good social development of the way things happen in the world. You know when you grew up in Hampstead with your father and all that kind of stuff?
And mother.
And your mother, obviously.
And sister.
And your sister, obviously, yeah. Was your old fella ever a member of the Royal British Legion?
No.
Because, of course, he was a former serviceman from the Second World War.
No, he was never in the
He went
British
around
Legion.
bombing people in Canada, didn't he?
No, he was a navigator.
Yes.
And they went on practice runs in Canada, which is correct.
Nobody tell him that we were at war with Germany.
No,
he should have been bombing Germany.
As I've tried to explain to you in the past, you can't just get into a Lancaster bomber and go and do the business without being trained first. You'd probably like to know why people would be trained first, and they trained in Canada.
I see.
And then he went and trained in India. And actually, most of what he did in India was running cargo and people backwards and forwards.
I see, yes, very interesting. Anyway, the point is, a lot of...
So you're wrong about that.
Sorry?
So you're wrong about that. He didn't bomb anybody in Canada.
No, this is not the point of the story. The point of the story is that Did you know that about 1/3 of all the Royal British Legion clubs have closed down in the last 10 years? Yeah. And
is that due to the fact that many people who would have been, say, veterans of the two wars are no longer with us?
Well, I think there's something in that because, of course, my father as well was a war hero. Came out of the Navy after 6 years in 1946.
So you say.
What do you mean? So I say.
Well, you've never produced any evidence.
Well, I mean, how do you? You know, he never gave me his medals.
Did he get a medal?
Like that.
Why not? Well, where are his medals?
He got 6 medals.
Well, where are they?
My mother's got them at home.
Your mother?
At her home.
Well, I want to see a picture of them.
Well, why?
Because I don't believe you.
I don't want to boast about my father's medals.
You're always
Loads of
going on
men
about
came home from the war with medals. Anyway, point of the story is,
go on.
if you're an avid Coronation Street fan, you will remember that Jack and Vera, who used to be the mainstay of the whole programme, Jack would always slink off and say, I'm just going down the Legion. And down at the Legion, he'd have access to a snooker table, game of darts, cheap bitter, subsidised by the Legion, all that kind of stuff. Meet all his mates, talk horses, racing, all that kind of stuff. Great social club, really, but they're all closing down.
Was women allowed in it or not?
Do you know, I don't know the answer to that one. The ones I used to go into, I never used to see women in there.
Why did you go in there?
Oh, I used to go to the British Legion in...
But you were never in the services.
No, but you can go as a show of support. You can join up as a member and help support the place.
So you're a member of the British Legion?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Are you?
I go to one in Gosport.
Do you?
Yes, indeed, I do, yeah. And I
you pretend that you were in the services?
No, of course not. But I used to go to one in Chester, you see, because that was a big area.
Seen the time, by the way.
Near Liverpool, which was the world's biggest port just before the Second World War.
Right.
Don't worry about
I'm going to quiz you some more. I'm worried about the time. We're running very late. We've only been going half an hour, and we're already about half an hour late.
Okay.
But so keep that thought. I want to talk to you more. I'm going to quiz you more
Down
about
the
your
Legion.
membership of the British Legion.
Yes.
Sounds like a bit of a charlatan's escapade.
Yes.
This is Talksport.
The Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast on Talksport with the new Ford Ranger. It's the breakfast show that's always ready to take on any challenge.
Join me, Alan Brazil, and a different co-host every weekday morning from 6 a.m. as we tackle all the big stories of the day.
The Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast. Weekday mornings from 6 on Talksport with the new Ford Ranger. Ruthlessly tested across the harshest terrain on Earth. Find out more at ford.co.uk.
Take control of your game with the new and improved mobile betting experience from William Hill. This is our fastest in-play product yet, with easier access to your full range of in-play markets. And our new scoreboards give you in-depth stats and updates, so you can take it all in, then take control. Download the new and improved William Hill app now, with a 5-star rating from The Sun. When the fun stops, stop.
Repeat after me. I, Colin Hinchcliffe, do solemnly swear.
I, Colin Hinchcliffe, do solemnly swear.
To apply for the marriage allowance tax break.
To apply for the marriage allowance tax break.
And save up to £212 a year. If you're married or in a civil partnership and one of you earns less than £10,600 and the other pays basic rate tax, there is up to £212 of tax savings waiting for you to claim. It takes less than 10 minutes to apply at gov.uk/marriage allowance.
The FA Cup 6th round, live on Talksport. Tonight from 7, join Mark Saggers for a kick-off FA Cup special. Get all the build-up and full match commentary of Reading versus Crystal Palace. Then, tomorrow from 1, join Jeff Peters for Match Day Live. He'll be taking you around the grounds, bringing you all the goals from all the games. Ahead of full match commentary of the FA Cup clash between Everton and Chelsea from 5:30.
It's a goal!
Sunday from 1. It's a Sunday exclusive FA Cup special. Mark Saggers brings you all the build-up ahead of full match commentary of Arsenal versus Watford.
Excellent piece of play.
Plus kick-by-kick commentary of Manchester United versus West Ham.
What a finish!
The FA Cup 6th round, live on Talksport.
This is Talksport. We are the two mics. It's coming up to, of course, the end of the week. There's a lot of football coming up this weekend. Yep. Of course, we'll be talking, I'm sure, about Everton-Chelsea, which you're going to, are you not?
Oh, I am
weekend?
indeed.
Up to Goodison.
Going on the old Rattler.
And I mean, I don't mean to say this in a disparaging way, but it's quite a rare visit for you this season, because you haven't been able to get up there that much.
This is my first visit to Goodison Park in 2 seasons.
Is it?
I didn't go at all last season.
Really?
I couldn't. I just had things I had to sort out. There was a huge sort of a readjustment in the business world and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't go last season at all. Haven't been this season. Delighted to say it is my first visit for 2 years, and I'm looking forward to it very much indeed. And it's up on the train at lunchtime because it's a 5:30 kickoff.
This is tomorrow, right?
This is tomorrow, Saturday.
Right.
And we get the last train back. I'm going with my mate Dave, who is a restaurateur and a Chelsea fan. And
will you be regaling us with the odd picture, do you think?
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so, because whatever happens, it's a big, big day.
Your fans demand it, you know.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm not sure Dave is quite as, what's the word I'm looking for?
Capable.
Yes, that's right, with a camera as you are when we were down in Bournemouth.
Right.
But,
well, you don't have to do that, but you can do just the odd picture.
Yeah, I'm sure between us we'll cobble something together.
Happy, because I'll be, of course, in the bosom of my family, so it'll be good for me to.
You'll be down in Sussex, yeah?
I will be,
Okay,
now, let me read you a few of these tweets out.
Come on.
Gaz says, that's it for Spurs winning the Premier League now. # Porky Jinx, after you said they would. Craig says, Mike Parry's talking utter drivel, journal reading, casserole eating plank.
Oh, that's very nice,
that
isn't
seems
it?
a bit harsh,
That's very nice, yeah. Thank you very much
Phantom
indeed.
says, Everton's motto should be, must lose from winning position. Porky's motto should be, must save Valentine's cards from 40 years ago. Jamie says, what is that rubbish the caller and Porky are chatting about tonight? Spurs messed up tonight and the fans are making excuses.
Yeah, you only ever seem to read out,
well, these are the only ones I can find.
The messages that seem to support you and deride myself.
No,
but I don't mind.
These are the only ones I can find.
I don't mind.
Paul, who's a Spurs fan in Hockley, Birmingham, says, all season Pochettino has been telling us how important the Europa League is, and then he makes 7 changes when we face our toughest test. If we were playing away to a top 6 team on Sunday, you might make a case for it, but we are playing one of the worst teams to play in the Premier League. Surely the team that played last night could play Sunday, and vice versa.
Yeah, but they might get injured if you play him.
Who came on earlier was a plank. Yeah, but you can't run a football club on the basis that you can't put somebody out to play in case they get injured.
I think you can.
Then
you
never put them out on the pitch.
I think you can. I think you have to, and I think Mr. Pochettino has been very brave, and it shows. How steely and single-minded he's been, and he's said, "Look, I'm not going to risk any of the players that I need to take me to the Premier League summit. I'm just going to back out of this competition."
If he wants to be taken, to the Premier League summit, surely any time he plays any player, there's a risk that they're going to get injured. So maybe he shouldn't play them at all.
Yeah, but I mean, he regards the Europa League now as superfluous games compared to what's on offer if he wins the Premier League, and I totally back him.
Yeah. Well, most fans do not. Glenn says this, and he's a Spurs fan. Putting all eggs in one basket is not the solution. Try and win any cup we are in is the way we should be going.
Yes. Well, you say that. Now, I've got a few tweets and stuff from people who are Royal British Legion members, which you've derided,
I haven't derided
Yes, you have, yeah.
No, the reason I asked you about it, and I want to ask you some more questions, is I don't understand why you have joined the Royal British Legion.
I joined the Royal British Legion in Chester because it was the only drinking place that was open all day.
So you joined it so you could drink all day?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Right, okay. So it was nothing to do with respect for the people of the services?
Oh, very much so. I always help with the poppy appeal and that kind of stuff.
How do you help?
I used to go and encourage those who went out with the cans.
Encourage them how?
Pat them on the back on the way out.
Pat them on the back on the way out as you were downing
snooker.
Some more beer and
yeah, that's come through the snooker room. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, okay. I also joined the Labour Club because they were open all day.
This is the trouble with you.
Yeah,
you have literally. I mean, you talk about me having the morals of an alley cat.
Yes.
I mean, you have absolutely no moral compass when it comes to just doing things so that you can fulfil whatever sordid little task that you want to do.
I joined the Conservative Club as well because they were open all day. The Conservative
Did
Club...
either of them know that you were a member of the Labour and Conservative?
Well, I never admitted to the others that I was, you see, because actually you're not allowed to be a member of the Labour Club and the Conservative Club.
No.
On the basis that if one knew that you were a member of the other, they would ban you and throw you out.
Might they not think you were a bit of a sleeper as well? You might be getting in there to find out what they were up to.
But I never admitted to anything like that.
Did I tell you I got buttonholed, by the way, by the Labour Party last... I forgot to tell you this last weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to recruit you.
Well, yeah.
Must be hard up then.
Well, I think there must be.
Yeah.
But no, they were basically canvassing people's views on the EU referendum.
Oh, I see.
And normally when somebody stops me in the street, I can't be bothered talking to them. But I had a bit of time on my hands because I dropped one of the kids off somewhere and I was waiting for them to do something. I was going to go pick them up. And so I got into sort of, not a heated argument with this guy, but, he was very earnest. And he was like, may I ask how you plan to vote in the EU referendum? And I went, no, you may not ask that.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you what I think. And then he asked me about Jeremy. He said, what do you think of the Labour Party's position? I said, well, I don't like Jeremy Corbyn very much. And he said, yeah, well, many of us don't like him either.
Really?
It was very interesting.
It's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah. So anyway, sorry.
The leader.
So basically what you're saying to me is that you have spent your entire life searching out opportunities for drinking 24 hours a day.
Definitely.
And some of that has involved joining political organisations, charitable organisations.
Yes.
I mean, surely they must ask why you're standing around at the bar surrounded by people who have been in the services.
No, what I always said was, you see, this is a great thing about being a journalist. I mean, as a young reporter in Chester, age about 19, 20 or something like that, all I ever used to say was I was on a big story. And then as
you can't keep that going for months on end.
Yeah, you can. I got completely bladderated, at the bar.
You're completely shameless.
A lot of it was free. A lot of it was bought by other people who thought I was important because I worked for the Chester Chronicle.
So you allowed men... and presumably not women, because they tend to be all male these places, right? Who were perhaps not endowed with a lot of money.
That's right.
To spend their money on you.
Definitely. I thought I deserved it. I thought I deserved it. I didn't have much money in those days. I went to both the Conservative Party annual dinner, the Chester Conservative Association, and the Labour Party annual dinner, the Chester Labour Party. Right. And the reason I only went if I could go onto a table with free wine. Because I was paid so little. What are you laughing at?
It's a shocking thing to admit.
I was paid so little. I was only paid £21 a week on the Chester Chronicle.
That's probably all you were worth.
Well, maybe it was in those days.
How much was a bottle of wine in off-licence in those days?
Ooh.
Probably about £1.
Yeah, probably £1.50, something like that, I suppose. I don't know.
Well, but you could have afforded it. You were still living at home, right?
Yeah, but they used to have these dinners in hotels where the wine was a lot more expensive. In fact, funny enough, I was put on a table at the Labour Party dinner one year, and nobody had told them that I was allowed free wine. So they brought along a bottle of wine, and I drank it all, not realising it had been bought by the bloke sitting next to me, who had no idea who I was, and then started a punch-up because he said I'd stolen all his wine. But I told him it was somebody else on the table, and he started threatening other people.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
good.
Some of those table arrangements don't work. I'll tell you a story about a Scottish wedding I went to once.
Oh, yeah, it's
terrible.
Brilliant. Yeah.
This is Talk Sport. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Billy Garton, former Man United player, who's played for Manchester United through thick and thin when things weren't going that well. So we'll find out from him what he makes of Louis van Gaal next on Talksport.
Talksport.
Licensed for radio.
Ultimate Game Radio.
Fabulous shots.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Sport, we are the two mics. Of course, it's the Porky Quiz coming up on the Reagans a little bit later on. Porky was in America when Ronald Reagan was president, so he should do pretty well. But I'm saying it might well be just another 3 out of 10. We're going to talk to Billy Garton in a moment, former Manchester United player, because Manchester United last night put in a pretty awful performance against Liverpool. Could have lost by a lot more than 2-0. But let me just read a couple more tweets. Kev says, big teams compete on multiple fronts. What does tonight say about Spurs? And Mark says, I agree. It makes them seem like a small club, and that comes from a disgruntled Man United fan. This is the last 16 we're talking about. And Richard says, if Leicester were playing Europa League, they'd play to win any cup is worth winning. And then he says, what have Everton won recently, Porky, which is, I suppose, a little bit below the belt. But,
well, it's not below the belt. We won the cup in 95. Hope we'll win it again this season.
95?
Yeah.
Well, you make it sound as though that was quite recent.
Well, Spurs last won something a lot longer ago than that. Well, actually, they won the League Cup, didn't they? With one of them foreign managers who only stayed a year.
One of them foreign managers?
Yeah.
What's happened to you? Have you turned into some kind of...
Was it Santoni or something? Was his name Santon or Santoni?
Santoni?
Santoni? Something like that, yeah.
Juan de Ramos, wasn't it?
Was it Randy Ramos?
Randy
Ramos.
I
don't think it was.
Ramos.
No. Anyway, I'll find that out and correct myself in a minute.
Let's talk to Billy Garton, because
he
was playing football before Everton won the last thing they won.
Ooh.
Billy, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well indeed. Disappointing performance from Manchester United. Louis van Gaal seems to think that they were sort of robbed because the penalty shouldn't have been a penalty and the second goal was offside, but that kind of doesn't mask the performance, does it?
No, it's seriously depressing at the moment. I think this is like the 6th or 7th time I've been on Talksport talking about the team, and I've tried my best over the last few times to defend them and come up with reasons and excuses, but the last few games have just been dire and desperation in many respects, and I'm finding it really difficult to find any excuses. There's such a lack of desire. I mean, that's the Man United-Liverpool game that we watched today, and the lack of desire and passion, irrespective of the fact that it's, the last 16 of the Europa League, just the fact that it's the Man United-Liverpool game. I mean, I never see the facial expressions on the players change, and maybe that's a result of the way that the manager conducts himself, because I just can't defend it anymore. It's depressing.
Well, I agree with you there, Billy, and my view is that something should have been done about it by now. I think everybody's given up at Manchester United. I mean, we know that Van Gaal is going at the end of the season. That means that half the players that have been brought in under him or who've been allowed to play in the first team under him are going to be going out as well. It's going to be a massive revolution. My view is it's a lot more down to Ed Woodward than Louis van Gaal. Louis van Gaal is not going to walk, so somebody should have taken the executive decision to say, look, that's it, we've had enough, call it a day, and got themselves in place so as they could prepare for the end of this season, the transfer window, and the start of next season.
I think, but what about professional pride, though, Mike, and the players?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Having some ownership of it. I mean, that, to me, the vanilla sort of middle-of-the-road attitude. I mean, if we don't score first, we're never, ever winning games. It's almost like that there's not enough of a dynamic approach when you go a goal down. I watched it on the weekend against West Brom. I know we went down to 10 men, but you basically spend 75% of the game just circling the ball around the edge of the box of the opponent and never really have a cutting edge or at least be a little bit more cavalier with the approach. And so, players, I mean, the players coming off and knowing that they've put in that type of performance, to me, is as unacceptable as maybe blaming the manager or Ed Woodward or whatever you want to say. But that, to me, is a real poor reflection of what Manchester United's about.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I noticed, Billy, as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched most of the Spurs Borussia Dortmund game, and then it obviously flipped over to United against Liverpool. And I mean, the sort of purpose with which Dortmund went forward and scored their goals was very markedly in contrast to the way that Man United were playing. I mean, Liverpool were a little bit better. They had a few more chances, but United don't seem to have any kind of impetus about going in the right direction, do they?
And the question I would ask is, who's leading that? Is that a directive from the manager and the coaches, or is it the lack of confidence or the lack of understanding of the players? Because when you look at the team, individually, there's some really creative players, some really technically gifted players, some really dynamic, fast, athletic players, yet we play nearly the whole game in front of the other team's defence and never penetrate. And sometimes, the players have to take ownership of it and actually, in a game where you're trying to rescue a game, maybe individually take control of the situation and accept that if the manager's not going to get up off his butt and stand on the sideline and bark out instructions, then it's up to you to try and rescue a game. It's just, I watched 3 teams at the weekend with 10 men have a great go at trying to rescue games and win games, and we're almost as successful with 10 as they were with 11. Yeah, that game on Sunday with 10 men just fizzled out, and tonight for me just fizzles out. And how many times this season do we just see games just fizzle out? I mean, at least have a go. If you lose 3-0, at least have a go. It's almost like he believes that 2-0 was a great result and we can get them back to Old Trafford and take them. And I think, in days gone by that might have been the case, but not now. I mean, you wouldn't put it past Liverpool going to Old Trafford and winning again. I mean, it's just a different era.
You never know which Liverpool team's going to turn up, to be honest, these days. They're either very good or they're abysmally poor. What I think is really sad, Billy, is that, and you've probably seen it yourself, when you get Paul Scholes and Rio Ferdinand just really sticking the boot in and twisting the knife in the wound after the game, I find that a bit unpalatable, to be honest. I mean, it's all very well to say, well, they're only being honest, and they set very high standards when they played and they won Champions Leagues and all that. Fair enough. But I find it unpalatable. I don't like to see them whinging on and on and on about, it's terrible, it's shocking, geez, that was awful.
Who's that meant to be?
That's Paul Scholes.
He doesn't say anything like that.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
I bet you wouldn't say that to his face.
I would, actually. If he was standing here now, I'd say, I think you're being very miserable about a team that brought you great glory. I said, I know you gave it great glory, but the club that is Manchester United provided the platform for you.
Yeah, I think the pundit thing is in a whole new realm as well now. You've almost got to be controversial, and you've got to be sticking the knife in, and you've got to be, making it, taking yourself beyond former player or any allegiance you've got with the club. And I think that's one of the things that made Gary Neville so successful at it. And these guys are obviously trying to follow suit with that sort of controversial. And, I mean, if they're getting you talking about it, obviously they're, in their eyes, probably doing their job. So,
Yeah.
But, I mean, you have to say, in all fairness, I mean, Paul Scholes, Rio Ferdinand, you just mentioned Gary Neville there,
Yes.
Roy Keane, who does the Champions League stuff on ITV. I mean, you can't imagine any of them being happy with what they would have been involved in last night if they were playing in that Man
they should
United
be more
team.
constructive instead of sitting there whinging,
I don't agree.
very good.
I don't agree. I think what sums up Manchester United's performance last night was there was a free kick in the first half, and there was Juan Mata and Memphis standing over it. And Mata decided to run over it and let Memphis kick it towards the goal.
Yeah.
And he practically hit the corner flag with it.
Yeah,
You just think, that was one of the few chances they had. It was just horrendous.
The old defensive.
Do you mind? I'm talking to Billy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Billy, sorry.
For me, one of the guys that you've mentioned doing the punditry stuff, all in my eyes epitomise what Manchester United is about. And when I played, it was like Sir Brian Robson and Norman Whiteside and Kevin Moran and players like that who just had more character to me and leadership qualities than what's on show at the moment. And that, when I look at the faces and I look at the body language of the players, it's so apathetic at times and so lacking in passion that, maybe these guys that are doing the punditry feel like, inside that it's turmoil for them as well, because they know what the past has had and what's driven Manchester United to great successes. And
I think, Billy, you're absolutely right. We've got to go, though, because we run out of time. This is Talksport with the two mics. This is Talksport. We are the two mics. Coming up a little bit later, it's Porky Quiz time, of course. It's going to be on the Reagans and their time in the White House, of course. Right now, let me do a few more tweets. Here's a good one from Ross. Will the Admiral be accompanying Porky to Goodison on Saturday?
Who?
The Admiral.
The Admiral?
Yeah.
No, not the Admiral, no. He's the guy who's come with me is a mate of mine who is a Chelsea fan.
Why don't you take the Admiral with you?
And a very successful businessman. Well, he'll probably be going by ship.
Will he?
Yes.
What, to Liverpool?
And I'm going on the train.
I see. But you won't get there in time. Will he hopefully set off already then?
Well, he'll set off around the coast of Britain, I would imagine. Liverpool once having been the world's biggest and most commercially prosperous port.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Lee says this, Porky, you plank, start backing Leicester and give them the Porky curse. I think Lee might be a Spurs fan.
Well, he might be. Look, I don't have a prejudice as to who wins the Premier League. I hope it is either Spurs or Leicester. I really do, yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, I want it to be a team different to the cabal of big clubs
well,
who
Arsenal haven't won it either for ages.
No, well, OK. Well, Arsenal, I'd love
so
them
anybody
to
but
well.
Manchester City is what you're saying?
Well, not really, but I mean, the free money clubs, have had a real boot up the old Jacksy this season, haven't they? Chelsea are down there in the bottom half or nearly in the bottom half.
Is that a technical term?
Yes, that is a technical
boot
term.
Up the old Jacksy.
It is a technical term. And Manchester City have I think they've shot themselves in the foot by openly discussing the change of management at the end of the season when only 2/3 of the way through the season.
And who was the one person that said that would make a massive difference to them?
Was it yourself?
He was.
Oh, I just guessed at that.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. Well, you didn't have to be a genius to work that one out.
Yeah, but nobody else said it would. A lot of people disagreed with me and said, oh, no, it won't make any difference. They're professionals, right? How about this from Roy?
Yes.
So Porky joined 3 clubs because they're open all day and he has the nerve to call you a drunk.
Yeah, that's right,
bladdered.
Yeah.
And what D says, Porky joined the Legion to drink cheap beer all day and have a captive audience to bore everyone with his lies.
Oh, that's very nice. What on earth does that mean? What lies?
Well, I don't know what he means by
exactly.
that. I can only assume that he's suggesting that some of your tales...
Who's
tall
this
tales,
person?
D, he's a regular listener.
Is he? Oh, well, I tell you what, we'll get a regular address for a regular listener. And,
Why?
Well, because my lawyers will be very interested.
Your lawyers?
Yeah, my lawyers will be very interested from people
I bet you keep them pretty
sending
busy.
public notes, about my so-called lies. That's a disgraceful slur.
Here's another
I've
one.
never told a lie in my life
Have
on
you not?
air. No.
Not on air?
No.
What about off air?
Well, I've had to tell a few white lies now and then in business, of course. We all have.
And in the field of romance
and
as
in
well.
the field of romance, certainly, yes.
You've had to lie to a few women in your time. Sean says this, Porky joined the Legion because it's the only place open all day. Then he joined the Labour and Conservative clubs because they're open all day.
Yeah,
What does this say about him?
Well, I like going to all-day drinking clubs,
Lee
I
says,
suppose, yeah.
Lee says, Porky fleecing pints out of war veterans, hilariously heinous. It's a shocking thing.
I wasn't fleecing pints out of war veterans.
Well, it sounds like you were.
I hinted to them now and then that I could get them a story in the paper about, certain aspect of their fundraising. And, a few free pints across the bar wouldn't go amiss, that was all.
And then
I was a poverty-stricken trainee journalist.
Yeah, of course. Crazy Taxi Dude says, Porky going on about one of those foreign managers. What part of Liverpool is Martinez from?
Well, he's not, is he? He's anglicised, though. He's very anglicised, isn't he, Mr. Martinez? Yeah, Spanish, obviously. Now, listen, I want to tell you something that I've learned from my scientific journals.
Yeah, go on.
Do you know that until we learned how to cook, right?
When you say we...
Well, mankind.
Yeah, because you haven't really ever learned how to cook, have you?
Well, don't be ridiculous.
Well, you haven't, by your own admission.
Until we learned how to cook, do you know that human beings as they were 2.5 million years ago, so that's probably Neanderthal man, right?
Probably, yeah.
Used to spend all day eating. They didn't do anything else.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, surely they had to go out and find the food, though.
No. Well, yeah, they did. I mean,
they must have spent half the day trying to hunt for the food and then the other half the day eating it.
Yeah, but you know why they spent half a day eating?
Why?
Because the food wasn't cooked. It was so tough to eat.
Was this before they invented fire, then?
That it wasn't before they invented fire. You're absolutely right. So before they ever cooked it, they used to, like they cut up a heifer lump or something like that.
A heifer lump?
Yeah, something they'd hunted down. What are they called in those days? Saber-toothed tigers and all that kind of stuff.
Saber-toothed tiger,
yeah. And then they chop a bit of raw meat. And then the way they ate in those days was you didn't eat to swallow food.
No.
You ate to just take the nutrients out of the raw meat.
Oh, so you sort of masticated it?
Yes, but you couldn't swallow it.
Right.
Because if you swallowed it, you'd die.
Why?
You'd choke on it or it would fill up in your gut and all this kind of stuff.
It's not very good for you to eat raw saber-toothed tiger, I would have thought.
No, that's absolutely right.
You should really saute it with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
I've worked out that in a year, Stone Age man, the Neanderthal, would make Neanderthal would make 2 million more chews a year than you and me now.
Really?
Imagine spending all that time doing that.
Also, were their teeth not more pointy as well at that time? Were they not more? They were more cut, and their jaws were different shape as well. So they were actually, had kind of protruding lower jaw.
Yeah, they had
so the actual biting
jaw.
Yeah, so the biting mechanism would have been different.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. You see, you've got the message here for once, and the thing is, also, the diet was like very raw meat, but also very raw vegetables.
Yeah.
So you imagine
very raw vegetables.
Yeah, you imagine
very raw.
Well, what I'm saying is,
either raw or not.
You imagine trying to eat your way through a raw turnip. Sorry, what's funny about that?
Well, you could just shave it, couldn't you?
No, they didn't have any knives or anything. I mean, these are very basic people.
So you just bite into it?
Have to say, well,
maybe they would crush it on a rock and try and sort of, you'd split it open.
Well, maybe they could have done that. The point is, when they learned about fire and how to cook food and got out, they then only spent 2 hours a day eating, whereas previously they'd spent 12. How about that?
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
Well, I suppose so.
I think that's absolutely amazing.
But when did the change happen then?
2.5 million years ago.
When they discovered fire.
2.5 million years ago. Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
And
it must have been difficult though, mustn't it? Because if you're used to just eating everything raw, and then next time, suddenly you wake up one morning and there's a guy with this incredible thing going on, which you've never seen in your life, called fire.
Yeah.
And and you're trying to grab a bit of the saber-toothed tiger, and he's telling you not to because you've got to wait for it to cook.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be quite weird.
Well, yeah, but obviously it was a change of life. It probably came on very slowly. It's a bit like us moving from landline telephones to mobile telephones, I should imagine. You know what I mean?
Well, not really.
Sort of change in lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. But I do think...
I mean, a phone is a phone. Suddenly you're confronted by something that you've never seen in your life.
Yes.
Like a fire.
Yes.
And you're also then being told you can't eat what we normally would have eaten this same time yesterday.
Well, you can, but you'd find it much easier to eat cooked food then, wouldn't you? It's a bit like, what is it like? I suppose it's like us eating... What's the biggest change in our lifetime of the way food is served?
I would say the microwave.
The microwave could be. I don't eat microwave food, by the way.
You've got a microwave?
I've got two.
You've got two microwaves?
Yeah.
Why?
I've got one in each house that I live in for most of the time. I've got three, actually, because I've got one in my other place as well.
Well, that doesn't count.
But I've never used any of them.
Well, why have you got them then?
I just think a kitchen should have one, I suppose.
But what's the point of having one if you're not ever going to use it?
I've never used a microwave.
Is it one of those complicated ones, or is it straightforward, sort of, on off?
It's got a white door on the front.
Yeah.
You open.
Yeah.
And you put stuff in, and you close it.
But how about the controls, though? Because you can get lots of different ones that can do defrosting, reheating.
I don't know.
They can have level...
I've literally never used
1,
them.
2 and 3.
I've never used them.
Really?
Literally never.
You've never got the old Chinese out of the fridge and reheated it?
I can tell if I'm in a licensed establishment and ask for a pie or something like that.
Yeah.
You can tell whether it's been microwaved or not because it comes out boilingly hot and soggy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always send it back and say, I didn't ask for a microwave.
Well, chicken and arrogant pie
the
other day.
That's
How was
true.
that?
Oh, that was lovely. That was beautifully done in an oven. I knew that because you could smell them in the oven in the back, you know what I mean? And they just pulled them out when people wanted them.
I see.
No, they weren't microwaved at all. It was lovely. But you know what I mean? I mean, that was...
You can also tell, like, for example, if you get a roast dinner in a pub that's been microwaved, you can tell by the residue around the outside of the plate.
Can you?
Whether it's been microwaved.
Oh, well, I don't go to places that do that. The biggest revolution for me has been the absence of the square block of ice cream between two wafers. You just can't get that these days.
Eh?
I love to have the little square block or little rectangular block of ice cream, which you unwrap from its paper and then put away for either side. Didn't you love that?
No.
Oh, I did. Or put it into a cornet.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't do it these days.
Well, you can.
Mr. Whippy.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I like Mr. Whippy.
Do you?
Love it.
Well, you have to go and follow a van for that.
No, you find him on the front at Gosport all the time.
Do you?
Yes.
Well, marvellous. More revelations from Porky about the food industry coming up. Also, coming up in this hour, we're going to be talking about cyber hacking. This is Talksport.
Get a generous helping of the latest odds and tasty tips with Paddy's Punts. Every weekday afternoon from 4 on Drive with Durham and Goffey on Talksport with Paddy Power. You're welcome. With the form on the football.
What a game.
The going on the GGs.
And they're off.
The crack on the cricket.
6.
And lashings of Paddy's famous generosity.
Come on, give us a break. It's only a bit of crack, isn't it?
Get your tips while they're hot with Paddy's Punts. Weekday afternoons from 4 with Adrian Durham and Darren Goff on Talksport with Paddy Power. You're welcome.
Take control of your game with the new and improved mobile betting experience from William Hill. This is our fastest in-play product yet, with easier access to your full range of in-play markets. And our new scoreboards give you in-depth stats and updates, so you can take it all in, then take control. Download the new and improved William Hill app now, with a 5-star rating from The Sun. When the fun stops, stop.
UEFA Champions League football live on Talksport. Come on! Kicking off on Tuesday night from 7 with full updates of Manchester City's clash with Dynamo Kiev.
It's a goal!
Followed on Wednesday night at 7 by full match commentary of Barcelona versus Arsenal.
What a goal!
UEFA Champions League football live on Talksport with Direct Line Van Insurance. For de facto 5-star rated van insurance, search Direct Line Van.
Colin Murray.
Get with the programme.
This morning from 10.
Thanks for spoiling the guy. About to do.
First time for everything.
Unbelievable.
Talksport.
A particularly
Why were we
daring...
playing fire there?
Well, you were talking about fire, weren't you?
Fire?
You were talking about fire and the cavemen.
What fire? Oh, I see you mean. Like,
what fire?
Yeah, sorry, you meant cooking.
Yeah.
Yes,
Saber-tooth
instruction
tiger
fire, yeah.
and all that. Now, Mark says, are you telling me, Porky, you've never reheated a cup of tea?
No, never.
You've never reheated?
I honestly have never used a microwave. I wouldn't know how to use it, and I never have.
Yeah.
And that doesn't, bother me at all.
Right.
I don't think they're very healthy microwaves anyway.
Really?
I think microwaves couldn't be responsible for... I think you're
finding...
finding...
you shouldn't put anything in there with silver foil.
Yeah, exactly. I know all that. Yeah, but I bet you in years to come, the microwaves may be revealed to have the same injurious effect on your health as cigarettes did in the 50s when people didn't realise that they were smoking themselves to death.
Really?
Well, I think you've got all these microwaves buzzing around.
What's the point of buying one if you feel like that?
Well, I just thought a kitchen should have one. Whenever I sort of move into or buy a property, I always long-term think I'll probably rent this out one of these days. You see what I mean? So I always equip it fully with everything.
Do you rent it furnished then? All your places?
Oh, always, yeah. They're all
really?
rented furnished, yeah.
Is that because you then have more control over the tenant?
Well, not necessarily, but you tend to find that people look after the place more if it's furnished. And secondly, you get a better rate. And thirdly, if you rent them unfurnished, you haven't got no idea what people are trying to bring into your place, honestly. Right. It's unbelievable. I mean,
Like what?
Well, I mean, huge bits of furniture, which are like monstrosities to get in and out, which scour all the walls on the stairs as they bring them up and down, all that kind of stuff.
So you're one of these people that inspects the properties on a regular basis?
Well, I don't, but the management companies who look after them do, and I get a 6-monthly report,
I see.
And if anything's gone wrong, then it's withdrawn from the rent and we repair whatever's gone wrong. It's quite simple.
You're a hard man, obviously.
No, not at all. Now listen.
Dee says this. It's got a white door and you put stuff in it. Porky, that's the washing machine.
No, not at all. No, I know what you mean, but I just don't like the idea of microwaves.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to tell you something amazing, right?
Yeah.
A person called Vlasta Dalibor has died.
Who?
Vlasta Dalibor.
Vlasta Dalibor. I'm not familiar with that name.
Well, you should be. Do you know why?
Why?
She created...
Oh, I didn't know it was a woman.
Yeah.
Vlasta?
Yeah.
How do you spell it?
A refugee from... where was she from? Czechoslovakia, I think. Was it Czechoslovakia?
Vlasta?
Yes, Czechoslovakia. Yeah.
Vlaster?
VLASTA,
right.
And new word, her surname, Dalibor, Dalibor.
Okay.
Right. She has had a huge and significant effect on British society.
Really?
Since the Second World War.
She didn't invent the dishwasher.
Sorry?
She didn't invent the dishwasher.
No, she didn't. But guess what she did invent?
I've no idea.
Pinky and Perky.
Well, she didn't invent them.
She did. They were her puppets. She brought them with her from Czechoslovakia when she fled.
Pinky and Perky?
Yeah, she invented Pinky and Perky.
Well, she created them.
She created Pinky and Perky.
Right.
And she
what
brought
were they called in Czechoslovakian?
Well, they weren't, because she brought them here and invented them here. This is the point. What she brought from Czechoslovakia was a toy snake, which she had.
Right.
And then she got it and she expanded it. But Pinky and Perky were very controversial, you know.
Were they?
Because, for instance, Paul McCartney didn't like them.
Why?
Well, because they both appeared, believe it or not, in the same Raw Variety Performance show.
Right.
And I think that the Beatles, or certainly
they
Paul
overshadowed
McCartney...
them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. We're a bit fed up.
Were Pinky and Perky the ones that had the weed in them?
No,
I know that was Bill
no.
and Ben, wasn't it?
That was Bill and Ben. No,
Yeah.
Pinky and Perky with the little...
No, I remember
the little
them.
pigs, you know.
No, I'm trying to remember what they did.
Pinky and Perky, we're Pinky and Perky, you know.
I'm trying to remember what else went on, though, with Pinky and Perky.
Well, not a lot did go on. I mean, I've got a history of what happened here. Let me see. They started off as minor characters in a menagerie of wooden marionettes created by Vlasta Dalibor.
Oh, okay.
And then somebody sort of said, they're nice, cute little pigs. In fact, a BBC producer called Trevor Hill saw the puppet cavalcade and saw the two little pigs and said, wow, they catch the eye. So they pulled them out, renamed them Pinky and Perky.
That they revived in 2008. I don't remember that.
No, I don't know.
Do you remember that?
No. No, I don't. No, I don't remember that at all. But anyway, apparently they got their break on the Sooty Show, which you can imagine, can't you?
I can.
Same sort of thing.
Yeah.
And but you know, they became two of the most famous characters in post-war British life. Isn't that amazing?
But would you not suspect that? I mean, I don't know how long it ran for. I mean, I remember it in the 60s, but I think it stopped in the 60s as well. So I mean, anyone who was born after the 60s, well, you won't remember them.
Yeah, Mary Whitehouse.
So I mean, it's not exactly part of British society.
Well, I think they were. Everybody knows who Pinky and Perky are. People
I don't think they do.
People mock others by saying, God, blimey, like Pinky and Perky, those two. You know what I mean? It's a form of derision.
If I asked my daughter if she'd ever heard of Pinky and Perky, she'd say no.
Well, no, she wouldn't. But people of our generation
That's
have.
what I'm saying.
Now,
Mary
Whitehouse
is dying out.
You know, but you know Mary Whitehouse.
Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah, well, Mary Whitehouse, she set up the Viewers. What was it? Viewers.
Well, she was just the woman that wanted to ban everything, wasn't she?
Oh, she wanted to ban everything because she didn't like filth. And I was a big supporter of Mary Whitehouse. You know, she tried to maintain standards.
Why?
When the country was slipping into a cesspit of sexual revolution and permissive society in the 60s.
Well, you were taking part in that, though.
Mary White.
Well, hang on, you were taking part in it.
No, I wasn't old enough to take part then. I started taking part in all that sort of stuff in the 70s. That's right, yeah.
Well, it's a bit hypocritical of you to say that you were a supporter of hers.
Well, I was, but I mean...
When you were busy sort of setting up the Rogerisation caravan in North Wales and trying to get yourself into discos on the grounds that you were the chief reporter of the local rag.
I was anti-filth in the 60s, but I was pro-filth in the 70s.
So how could you be anti-filth as a child, though?
Well, because I had a
weird child.
I had a moral code which I adhered to and lived by, probably instilled in me by my parents. But anyway, look... how
were Pinky and Perky filthy, then?
Well, Mary Whitehouse found them offensive and wrote to complain to the BBC. She said they were cruel to live performers and this might make a bad impression on children.
Really?
And I think that's what Paul McCartney complained about. Pinky and Perky...
Well, he thought they were filthy.
You know, in their unnaturally high voices, hello, children, we're Pinky and Perky, what have you been doing today? And all that
they
kind
weren't
of
from
stuff.
Liverpool, were they?
No, they weren't, no. But I think they would, like, you know, if they were on the same show as the Beatles, say, who were those boys playing those... Who were those filthy boys with the need their blinking hair get cut? They should get their hair cut and not play those daft machines, those guitars. They're too loud.
Oh, so they made fun of the Beatles.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
And the other thing I was to say was that so she complained and said that they were morally inappropriate. And for some unknown reason, I don't know how, they appeared in The Good Life. You remember The Good Life?
I remember The Good Life.
Yeah.
I don't remember them being in that either.
Yeah, well, I don't either.
All of this has very much passed me by. I mean, I remember them as a child, but I don't remember them being particularly iconic. I mean, I remember Bill and Ben far better than Pinky and Perky.
Yeah, I remember Pinky and Perky, definitely.
Because my thing was there was also Andy Pandy, right?
Yeah.
And there were two problems that I always had with Andy Pandy. One was that Teddy was always hiding under the carpet.
Yeah.
And there was always a great big lump. And Andy would walk around going, "Where's Teddy?" And all you had to do was look at the huge lump under the carpet where Teddy always was. And the other thing that used to bother me was in Bill and Ben, they'd always have to get back into the plant pot because the gardener was coming back up the garden path. at the same time every day.
Yeah.
And I never knew why they couldn't just, make appropriate sort of, conditions for that.
Yeah, that clearly affected your brain.
It did.
Anyway, you've mocked them, but in 1968, Pinky and Perky moved to ITV, where the series ran for another 4 years. The deal that took them there was worth £500,000 in those days.
Blimey.
So that's about $3 million today.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, extraordinary stuff.
Yeah.
Here's a one from Mark, who says, that's another fine recipe for Porky's classic cookbook.
What's that?
Heffalump and turnip.
Yeah,
it would go perfectly
yeah.
with mince soup and a chicken of Aragon pie.
Well, I think you're absolutely right.
And Simon in Sheffield says, how about Pinky and Planky?
Pinky and Blanky, that matches, actually. That's quite illiterate. Well
it's
done.
Not good, isn't it?
No.
And David in Nottinghamshire says, Pinky and Perky, all that money they made and they still lived like pigs.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, they did.
And Les in Manchester says, pork chop face Porky says, the Neanderthal man did nothing but eat all day. Well, looking at him, it seems that not much has changed then.
Yeah, that's a bit harsh.
It is a
isn't
bit harsh. Now, coming up next, we're going to speak to Scott Schober, who's a cyber security expert, because he's going to tell us about a very, very odd situation about a load of money being hacked out of a bank.
Ooh.
Loads of money, actually. Millions and millions. This is Talksport.
Bienvenue au weekend sports breakfast avec Michelle Quinn and Georgie Bingham. Hey!
Oh, really, Mickey?
Every Saturday and Sunday morning from 7 on Talksport with Renault Vans. It's the breakfast show that cooks up a souffle of sport and a pan au chocolat of pre-match build-up.
There's no need to milk it, Mickey.
The hors d'oeuvre to another big weekend feast of football. The weekend sports breakfast on Talksport with Renault Vans. To celebrate 18 years as Europe's #1 van manufacturer, right now it's Van Month.
Next hour, which is, of course, on the Reagans and the White House years, Ronald and Nancy and all that sort of thing, which you claim to be an expert on, so we'll see how well you do.
Yes.
Right now, though, we're going to go back to not the 1980s, but last month, when apparently a group of unknown hackers managed to get away with about $80 million, one of the largest bank thefts in history.
And where was that from?
They breached the Bangladeshi bank. And somehow, electronically, they could have got away with $1 billion, but because there was some kind of minor error, you're right, because there was some kind of minor error, like a spelling mistake on something that they put through the system, they only got 80 million instead of $1 billion. This is shorter, isn't it?
This is very frightening.
Well, it is frightening.
This is a prospect of what the future holds.
And I know that you're very worried about electronic banking, so we're going to talk to Scott Schrober, who's a massive expert on this. He's the author of Hacked Again, and he's going to tell us all about this particular story. Scott, very good morning to you.
Hey, how you doing there?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well. The thing that troubles me most about this story is that I hadn't heard about it, basically, until yesterday. So has it not been publicised very much?
No, it hasn't actually gotten a lot of attention, surprisingly, although it's really one of the largest hacks ever, and it's kind of scary. They got, like you said, there was about $81 million they got. If they were successful and were not caught, though, the part that scares me is they'd have probably exceeded $1 billion for all of the wire transfer fraud that they were trying to actually get, which was pretty scary.
Yeah. And how did they manage to do it? I mean, and with you said they got caught, but my understanding is that they made some kind of error, which meant that they couldn't get as much money as they were trying to get.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it originated. What they do is a basic spear phishing attack, and it's really kind of like it sounds. If you think of a spear fisher, it's a very focused attack. If you were to throw a spear at a fish, same thing here. But what they do is they target bank employees with a targeted email attack. So they'll send them an email that looks very convincing, maybe like it's from another branch. Click here on this particular link or on a particular file, and what it does is then download malware, and then it could then plant something on the bank server. It gains them access to secure servers. And they do these targeted and spied attacks by really watching bank employees, the amounts that they transfer from one bank to another, their codes, all those different things. And they log all that stuff and record it so that they in turn then can actually produce a false really transfer and fool someone. And it started working, and they successfully transferred about 13 money transfer requests through the Federal Reserve in New York and to the Sri Lanka and Philippines and different countries. But finally, they got busted when it was being routed through Germany because they spelled the basically foundation was misspelled and they wrote foundation. And that's typically how hackers mess up. They're very poor as far as spelling errors and other things that are kind of red flags and telltale signs, but instantly the bank will say, wait a second, that's a spelling error, that could be somebody that doesn't understand the grammar, or the communications from bank to bank, and they got busted and got stopped.
I mean, Scott, this is terrifying to me. I'm a technophobe anyway. When I was a kid, I used to have a savings account in this country, in what we call the post office, and I would take my £5 down to the post office, pay it across the counter. They'd mark that up in my book, and it was safe as houses. Nobody could steal my £5. But these days...
There you go.
These days, you know, I open up my laptop, I go to have a look at my accounts, and I dread every day that somebody's hacked into my account, stolen all my money. When are we going to... What are you laughing at, mate?
Because you're like a man who's just come out of a cave.
No. I mean, this is a possibility, is it not, Scott? Because these crooks are incredibly sophisticated.
Absolutely.
In this country, we've had a deluge of immigration from Eastern Europe, what formerly was the Soviet Union. These guys have become very sophisticated criminals. They can do things like...
What are you blaming it on the Russians for?
No, I'm not blaming it on the Russians at all, but I'm saying that they do things like they put strange devices inside hole-in-the-wall machines so that sometimes your card goes in and the details of your card are replicated. They take it, they steal it. I mean, we're not safe from anybody anywhere anymore.
No, absolutely. You make a good point. I myself, and the reason I even wrote Hacked Again, the book, was my account as a cybersecurity expert providing tips how to stay safe from hackers. We got hacked. We had U.S. dollars, $65,000 stolen from our checking account. Debit card compromise, credit card compromise,
unbelievable.
Website security tester, Twitter hack. The list goes on and on and on. So if they want to do a targeted attack, it is extremely difficult to stay safe.
Well, how do you protect yourself?
But
then?
isn't that because the banks are not very good at actually spotting this stuff?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And part of the problem, in many cases, the thieves know this, and they'll steal just enough money to keep under the radar. In my case, over $50,000 U.S. becomes a federal investigation. And yes, we did get all of our money back, fortunately, but you got to go through layers of bureaucracy and banks and letters and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And thieves get away with it often, and the banks eat a loss or whoever, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
But it makes your life very difficult, and it's hard to trust anybody.
Yeah.
That's the part that's scary.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah, but what the banks say is, don't they, in this country, they say, OK, so we do lose millions every year, we have to compensate the customers, but actually we save so much money by having electronic banking rather than thousands of people, you know, sitting behind desks in banks. It's worth it to them, isn't it?
Yeah, part of that is the case there. There are a few things that you can do. You can talk to your bank and put provisions in there and put some limits. Say, hey, I never want X number of dollars above a certain amount taking out of my account unless I physically come in and sign.
Yeah.
Same thing with your credit card. You can put limits on it. And you have to monitor your statements often to make sure if something happens, you can respond quickly to minimize the damage.
Although, I mean, I've had stories, and it's happened to friends of mine, where they go abroad, and sometimes it's happened to me, where, you spend some money on a credit card in another country, and you suddenly get a phone call from the bank saying, you should have told us you were going abroad.
Yeah, that's right.
But, I mean, in some ways, you don't necessarily want to give them that information. But I know other people who have had their cards just cancelled, and they couldn't use them for the rest of the holiday. So, I mean, there's obviously something wrong. But what I'm interested in as well, Scott, is how an organisation like these hackers could make such a sort of stupid blunder. And obviously we've all had these emails like, from so-and-so in Nigeria saying that, they want to transfer money into an account. But, I mean, if you're actually trying to take $1 billion out of a bank, you'd think you might spell check it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that is very true. But if you look at it, and in fact, I sat in on a discussion with a senior FBI agent in the U.S., and they discovered the top 10 hacks that they caught these hackers. And guess what? Out of all 10 of them, these fools actually bragged about it on social media, which led to their eventual getting caught. And that's what's so funny.
And
big egos, poor grammar, and they're stupid.
And what did we know? I mean, were they just stealing the money? I mean, was there a purpose for it? I mean, over and above just getting the money? I mean, were they an organised sort of group? Were they terrorists or something like
that? Typically, they're organized crime. They're cyber thugs. They are often Romania. Yeah, there's some in China. There's some in Russia. There are various countries, and they're small groups, usually a half dozen. They're very young.
Right.
They're very smart, and they know how to work computers, and they know the financial systems to take advantage of. They're looking for fast money and bragging rights.
Mm-hmm. Bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, presumably they targeted the Bank of Bangladesh because they figured that might be less secure than say, HSBC or something.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to find wherever the biggest vulnerability is. They're going for the low-hung fruit, although these guys, they're going close to $1 billion. I think it was about $850 million exactly in U.S. dollars. That's a huge amount of money that they were trying to get. So pretty aggressive, and it's a shame they didn't use a spell checker, as you said.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, listen, Scott, thank you very much for filling us in on that. Scott Schober there, author of Hacked Again, on that banking heist. As I say,
you can't believe people's greed, really, because if they'd have gone for 8.5 million and not 850 million, it might have gone under the radar. They might have got away with it. You know what I mean? I just don't understand people's greed in that sort of situation. I'd have been happy with $850,000.
Yeah.
It's not even $1 million.
Well, exactly. I mean, if you took 20,000 out of every bank one day a week sort of for a year, you'd be able to get the same amount of money. And nobody would probably notice. But I don't want to worry you about any of this stuff, but we'll talk some more about it coming up. I've got some great Pinky and Perky scenarios for you as well.
Excellent.
This is Talksport.
Sergeant, why have you brought the chaps to a Fiat professional dealership?
You said quick March, sir.
Yes.
There's an offer on Fiat Doblo and Fiorino vans in March.
And quick?
Only 31 days in March, sir. Clock's ticking.
Sergeant, I really don't think we can...
3 years warranty and 3 years roadside assistance.
Yes, that is rather good.
3 years servicing for just £99 and a £300 prepaid card for fuel too.
Don't bother walking back. You grab a Doblo. I'll take a Fiorino.
Quick March to your local Fiat professional dealership now. Mileage limitations apply. For full T&Cs, visit fiatprofessional.co.uk.
Sky Bet.
And as they turn into the final straight, he's moving away as they approach the last flight. And he's down! He's fallen at the last.
Whatever happens at the Cheltenham Festival, the first race is on us. Every day, money back as a free bet if you lose the first race. For new and existing customers, Sky Bet. It's betting better. 18 plus. Gambleaware.co.uk. Selected markets and eligibility restrictions. T's and C's apply. When the fun stops, stop.
Get the job done on Talksport with Toolstation. Will Spain reign again?
And Spain are into the lead.
Are France in with a chance? Or will the Three Lions finally rule? As the International League prepare to go head-to-head to lift the biggest prize in European football, join Hawksby and Jacobs every Monday from 1 to find out which team can get the job done. UEFA Euro 2016 on Talksport with Toolstation. Low prices on top trade brands. Open late 7 days a week. Find your nearest branch at toolstation.com.
Talksport.
It's a shot from the edge of the box.
There is no opposition.
Now with increased comfort.
Talksport.
Well, to go from Sir George Martin to this is a bit of a come down, isn't it?
I mean, talk about
this
a combination.
This is apparently from Pinky and Perky's album.
Is it any wonder that Paul McCartney started getting irritated with these two?
Well, surely. I mean, I suppose he didn't own the music, did he? So he couldn't stop them from doing it.
No, you can't stop them from doing it. But I mean, when you think
That's great.
When you think of all the songs that Sir George Martin produced for the Beatles, this was probably the worst one, wasn't it? Yellow Submarine. Yeah, we all live in the Yellow Submarine.
Well, it was Ringo's song, wasn't it?
Well, it was written for Ringo. It wasn't his song. It was still a Lennon McCartney song. And then for the two little pigs to pick it up and sing it in that high-pitched whine like that. Absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah.
Listen,
now I've got a couple of tweets for you on this subject, though. Here's one from Becky, who says, Pinky, Perky and Porky sounds like a surefire success to me.
Well,
Pinky and Perky couldn't talk any more rubbish than Porky does.
Oh, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
And Barnum says the real pigs in The Good Life were called Pinky and Perky. So I don't think Pinky and Perky themselves were actually in The Good Life. I think the pigs that they had, because they kept their own pigs,
were called Pinky and Perky.
Yeah.
Imagine having a couple of pigs living in your garden.
Well, I wouldn't mind having pigs in the garden.
No, thank you.
Pigs are great.
They're not. They roll around in mud, literally.
No, but
that's
they're
what they
very,
do.
very intelligent creatures.
Well, they might be intelligent, maybe. I wouldn't have pigs, grunting around in my garden.
You haven't got a garden.
Sorry?
You haven't got a garden.
No, but if I did have.
I mean, you've got about as much... You couldn't even get a pig onto that sort of tiny little so-called roof terrace that you've got in your penthouse in Stockbroker Belt. It's just about room for one chair and a table for one.
Don't forget the grounds in which the
They're not
penthouse
yours.
development
is
built.
Yeah, but that's communal grounds.
Yeah,
you can't put anything
you could have communal pigs, that's all I'm saying. I wouldn't want them,
Rubbish.
By the way, talking about, funnily enough, you introduced a Beatles theme there with the Yellow Submarine.
Well, it's more of a Pinky and Perky theme, really.
There's been a lot of sort of Beatle traffic going around since Sir George Martin died.
I have to say, by the way, I've had one or two complaints already from people saying, when you do the Beatles on every show now.
Yes, well, I'm afraid that's, they were a huge part of everybody's life, weren't they?
Well, no, they weren't, actually.
Yeah.
So I think from now on, after tonight, I think we're going to have another Beatles band brought in.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that.
Next week, no Beatles.
I agree that.
Can we agree that?
I agree with that.
All right.
Yeah, what came to my attention was that in Henley-on-Thames, where George Harrison lived for many years, and his widow still lives there in a huge development.
Where is it?
Something Park, just outside Henley-on-Thames.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I've forgotten the name now. Friar Park. Got it here, Friar Park. 120-room Victorian neo-Gothic mansion set in 30 acres. I mean, that's the one where he was attacked, which, many people
is it for
thought...
sale?
No, it's not for sale. What I'm saying is she still lives there. So, you'd think sometimes, perhaps she moved because of the grief of his death. She still lives there. And Henley-on-Thames, the town, want to erect a statue to George Harrison because, of course, he was the most famous ever resident.
Isn't Boris Johnson the MP for Henley?
Well, he used to be years ago. He's not now. Because he...
he's got a new he's got a new constituency.
He was MP for Henley-on-Thames. He gave that up to become Mayor of London, and now he's been parachuted into another... Uxbridge, that's right, yeah. But anyway, they want to put up the statue, and you'd think, wow, what a tribute that is. But George's... widow, Olivia, who was his second wife, has said no.
Why?
Don't want to do it.
Why does she not want to do it?
I don't know. I think she apparently she made one representation to them saying it would just destroy the town. People would come from all over the world to just put flowers on the George Harrison statue and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. She said, I've seen it happen,
And I suppose she might say as well, it's not something that he would have wanted.
Yeah, well,
because he was quite a modest guy, really, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And she said no. Olivia, who still lives in Henley, made clear her objections.
Yeah.
Her wariness is understandable. Her husband nearly lost his life in 1999 after being stabbed by a schizophrenic knifeman.
Yeah. Knifeman?
Yeah, it was a knifeman, yeah. He did stab him. And she apparently said in a representation of the council, after many years of thoughtful consideration and with great appreciation of the sentiment towards George, we have decided a more appropriate way of honouring his memory in Henley would be to support a community project, but not a statue of my late husband.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're going to do what she wants, does it?
Well, I think it would be very heartless, wouldn't it, to erect a statue in the town if the widow of the man to whom the statue is honoured says, I don't want it.
Well, it would, but I mean, you wonder what, it depends on their motivation. If their motivation is possibly to bring loads of people to Henley.
Well, exactly.
I mean, it's not as if they don't get enough visitors with a regatta and everything in the summer.
Yeah, but isn't that a bit of cheap commercialism? Oh, let's have a statue of George Harrison in the centre of town because he used to live here, and then millions of people come from all over the world.
Yeah, but you're talking about...
and they would.
But you're talking about council officials here.
Yeah,
I mean, these are not people known for their sensitivities.
Yeah.
These are people who are driven purely and simply by the filthy lucre.
No, I think
and
you're
if
right.
they see money coming in, they'll think this is a great idea.
Yeah, they would. And you know where they'd come from. They'd come from as far away as Japan, Australia, Singapore, South America,
I saw a
all
thing,
that kind of stuff, you know?
I saw a thing on the news last night which said that the two words travel and London are two of the most searched words on the internet.
Really?
Because people come to London now more than any other place in the world.
Is that right?
And places like, I think it's the Tower of London, the London Eye, and the Tate Gallery, Tate Modern, in fact.
Yeah.
And so many, tourist points in Britain are now the premier tourist destinations from everyone all over the world.
And why has that suddenly happened?
Well, I don't think it's suddenly happened, but it's just that London is now, the sort of the biggest tourist magnet in the world.
Well, that's it.
More people come here than go anywhere else.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Now, listen, by the way...
time, by the way.
Yeah, well, don't worry about the time.
No, I am worried about it.
Talking about London and all this, if we go to New York to do the show, I've got an idea.
Have you?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we'll hear about that in a moment.
The FA Cup 6th round live on Talksport with Regain for Men. The magic of the FA Cup continues with another weekend of massive matches. Kicking off tonight from 7 with live commentary of Reading versus Crystal Palace. Followed tomorrow by Everton versus Chelsea. And on Sunday, Arsenal versus Watford. And Manchester United versus West Ham. The FA Cup live on Talksport with Regain for Men. Facts, not fiction.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
So I'm moving to New York.
Talksport, we are the two Mikes. Porky Quiz coming up in the next hour. Just one quick tweet for you,
right.
Mr. Parry. Norman says, tell Porky Tesco to sell the blocks of ice cream and wafers as well.
Really?
And there's a look at what it looks like.
Oh, excellent.
So next
That's
time
exactly.
you're in, go to the ice cream section and you'll probably find it.
Thank you very much. That's
there you
excellent.
Go.
Well
now,
done.
what's this idea you've got about New York?
Well, listen, if we go to New York, right, I've worked it out. Ryanair have started a private jet charter service.
I saw that, yeah.
Right?
I
Seen
saw
that, right? So the plane they've got is a 737, 60 seats, right? 60 leather seats.
So it's not really a private plane, is it?
Hang on. 60 leather seats, right. So we go and we have the 2 seats at the front with our entourage of about 4 or 5 people, OK?
Yeah, right.
So we take 7 or 8 seats at the front. We then offer the opportunity for 52... followers of the two Mikes to come to New York with us.
Idea.
Right, to come to New York with us.
Like a show at the Head and Chickens.
Exactly.
Well, you do a show on the plane.
Well, we meet everybody on the plane, all that. Now, that would work out at a remarkably economical £550 per seat.
Right.
Because
there and back, or just there?
There and back, because the total cost is £33,000 to hire the plane, OK? Actually, I think it's there and back, but it might not be.
Are you sure? It might just be there.
Might just be there, yeah. But anyway...
I'm sure it must be there, because otherwise they couldn't possibly make it work, could they?
Well, I don't know. But anyway, this is my plan. Now, what happens is, supposing it's a one-way then, OK? So it's one-way, right?
Yeah.
So £550, but because we give them the honour of travelling with us, we actually charge them £700 to pay for our seats. You see what I mean?
Isn't the flaw in the argument that you've now just said that on the radio?
No.
So now nobody will do it?
No, not at all. They'd be honoured to pay for us to fly across the Atlantic. Yeah.
Don't you think they'd rather spend £25 to come and see us at Dingwalls?
Well, maybe, but I mean, what an experience to see us in New York, you know what I mean? And what we do is we go to Ryanair and say, look, can we have the livery change, please, for this flight? Can we have the 2 Mikes written on the side of the plane?
And then like Led Zeppelin?
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And then,
I think you'd be better off chartering a regular private jet, to be honest.
Well, this is a regular private jet.
No, it's not.
It is.
It is not. You do not have private jets with 60 seats in them.
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't. Private jets have got like 20 seats or maybe 10 seats. Well,
we don't want 20 seats. We couldn't make that pay. We will invite a load of rich followers, to come on the plane. Yeah. We'll have a bit of a party at the airport before we take off. Yeah. We'll have a fantastic...
Can you imagine the state you'd be in every time we fly like to Kennedy?
Well, we'd
they
fly...
wouldn't let you in.
I think we'd fly the day before the show, to be honest.
We might have to land at Teterboro in New Jersey.
Might have a 6-hour booze up over the Atlantic, you know what I mean?
Right.
Then recuperation from Bladderation Day in New York.
And is the drink free included in this price? Or
well, that would be provided by our followers and our
supporters. So they have to bring their own drink as well?
Well, no, but they'd make sure that the plane was stacked with loads of bladderation fuel to keep us going.
It's a fascinating idea. I think we should explore it some more.
Talksport has so much sport, we're running out of radio to play it.
In fact, we've got enough rugby, cricket, horse racing, boxing, motor racing and golf
for an entire other radio station.
The prodigal son of all radio stations is coming to your DAB digital radio. Talksport 2, because sport never stops.
There ain't no stopping it now!
Talksport 2 kicks off this Tuesday. If you can pitch it, bowl it, hurl it, putt it, catch it or convert it,
you'll find it right here on Talksport 2.
Thank you very much.
It's so new, you'll need to retune your DAB radio to receive it. Find out how at Talksport.com/retune.
Can they make it too?
Talksport 2, The Prodigal Son, launches this Tuesday, online and on DAB, because sport never stops.
This is Talksport. We are the two Mikes, and there will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. World Traveller says this. Porky, we would be honoured to pay for you to go to the USA as long as it's one way.
Oh, really? That's very nice, Jim. Well, I'll tell you what, there could be worse fates in life than being exported to the US of A.
Indeed.
Yeah.
As long as you're not wearing an orange jumpsuit, of course, and
That's
you're
right.
on your way to Guantanamo.
That's right.
Becky says this. Not sure a standard jet would cut it for the Mikes and 50 fans a trip to New York. Perhaps a Russian Antonov cargo plane would be needed for the booze.
Well, I mean, you could turn it into a warehouse-type party.
You could have one of those refilling jets coming alongside and just filling the wine over on a mid-air flight.
That's a brilliant idea. Yeah. What you mean is, as we run down on the bladderation fuel, suddenly the tanker looms up in front of us, and that hose comes filtering out.
Because, as I say, I mean...
into the nose cone of our plane and refurnishes the wine lake.
Because, I mean, I'm sure it's happened to you. It's certainly happened to me, where I've been on a plane where the booze has run out.
Oh, no, I've never heard that.
Really?
No.
I went once, when I went to Dubai once.
Oh, well,
chasing, it was one of my last jobs as a reporter, chasing a couple who were both in prison for committing adultery.
Oh, that's right,
in Dubai.
Yeah.
And we had to go out and see what we could do.
Yes.
And it was me and, the usual kind of crowd of about 20 people. And everybody was in cattle class apart from the Mirror.
Yes.
Because in those days, the Mirror would still put their people in first class.
Oh,
right?
I see, yeah.
And in the end, the guys who were from the Mirror came back to the back of the plane. And we actually drank them dry of almost everything they had.
Excellent.
I think the wine went at about sort of 3 hours in.
Yeah.
And then they started running out of things like Cointreau,
Oh, I see.
Bailey's, whiskey.
Yeah,
By the time we landed in Dubai, there was nothing left.
There were some planes that fly to that part of the world which are dry when they start.
Really?
Yeah, I think Kuwait Airlines fly across the Atlantic,
Right.
Middle East to London,
And you can't get any booze on
Can't
them.
get any booze on it, no. A mate of mine made the mistake of booking on them once, seriously, and he only found out when he got on board.
Oh, dear.
And by the way, he wondered why they'd confiscated all the duty-free booze they'd bought in the lounge, and put it in the hold.
Yeah.
So that's a bit odd, but he didn't realise it was a dry aeroplane.
I once got my parents a flight to New York and back on El Al.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And I took them back out to Kennedy to get on the plane.
Yes.
And when they went to buy duty free, and this was way before 9/11, they couldn't buy duty free because El Al required you to buy the duty free 2 hours before you flew, in order for them to scan everything that didn't have anything in it. That would blow up the plane.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I flew El Al.
I see.
I see.
You don't think that's interesting?
Yeah, I do think it's very interesting.
Really?
Yes, I do.
I don't think you do.
I was about to tell you a supplementary story. I flew to El Al. I flew with El Al. No, with El Al to Tel Aviv.
Right.
When I was covering the Middle East War when Israel invaded Lebanon and all that, and I flew first class because it was the only seat left on the flight. It was a scramble to get to the airport and all that kind of stuff.
Well, did the war only just started or something?
No, but something had happened that day, and I don't know what had happened. A lot of people had been blown up or something. So it got. Sorry, what's your problem?
Just the way you described it.
Oh, yeah, well, we got over. But the security on El Al is so good that it is, people would say, it's probably the most dangerous airline in the world because all the Arab nations will blow it up.
Absolutely
It's completely opposite.
Yeah.
It's easily the safest airline in the world because they've never had an aeroplane blown up because they're so rigid with their security.
Julian has tweeted a very nice picture of this plane here. What do you think of that?
Let's have a look. Oh, that's nice. What is that?
Isn't that nice? That is a Gulfstream. He says what you want is a Gulfstream G650ER.
Okay.
That set a record New York to City Airport, 800 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Without the wind helping.
That's very good.
That's quick, isn't it?
My favourite plane, if I go on a small one, is the Learjet because I think the Learjet is rather classy.
Yeah, but if you get a Learjet, it's a much smaller affair. I mean, friends of mine, I was thinking about this, went on one of these stag do's. There was a trip that somebody was getting married, but they're all quite wealthy. Yeah. And they went to Bilbao. And it was something like 23 or 24,000 to charter the jet to go there and back.
Right.
And it seated about sort of 12 people.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they did that, and they all paid
couple of grand each.
Couple of grand each.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Good idea.
Here's one from Def who says, "Ask Porky if we can organise a charabanc to Manchester for all the poor listeners." Hashtag private jet.
You wouldn't need a private jet to get to Manchester. We could hire a Virgin train.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, and have a champagne train or something like that.
Or an express or something like that.
Or an express, something like that. That's a good idea.
How about this from Janice in Salford, talking to Manchester?
Yes.
She says, "I think that Pinky and Perky were originally called Porky and Parry. And did you know that they had a top 50 hit with a cover version of Reet Petite? I didn't know that.
The top 50 hit.
Reet Petite, you know that song?
Petite. Is that
sounds like something? Sounds like something Rita. Sounds like something Vera would sing, doesn't it?
It does. Listen, I found out something incredible.
Did you?
I found out something incredible reading my journals. How about this? Obviously the Titanic sunk when it hit an iceberg.
It did.
The iceberg was 100,000 years old.
Yeah, I saw something about this the other day.
Did you realise that? Hey?
Well, what difference does it make how old it is?
Well, what I'm saying is it was a bit unlucky that after 100,000 years it just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time when the Titanic was passing.
I wouldn't say it was the iceberg that was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Was it the ship that was in the wrong place at the wrong time?
No, definitely not. The ship went on the standard route that you go, on that circumference of the Earth, but it was a particularly mild time of the year and the iceberg had floated away. Scientists have traced the likely origins of the iceberg that sank the Titanic using observations taken in 1912 and earlier and modern data about ocean currents and wind. Experts believe the iceberg that sank the passenger liner on its maiden voyage originated in a small cluster of glaciers in southwest Greenland with snow that fell... Yeah, Greenland. With snow that fell up to 100,000 years ago. That is incredible.
Do you think it's still there?
Well, the iceberg could well be.
I mean, it hasn't completely... completely melted? Or
No, could well be. No, could well be.
So have you ever... Because when you went on QE2 a couple of times, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Did you see the icebergs?
No.
So they don't go that close to them now?
Yeah, all you saw was blue sea.
Yeah.
I went in, what time of year did I go? September, something like that. So it wasn't winter, but it wasn't summer. You know what I
but
mean?
they're not just there in the winter, are they?
Well, I don't know, really. I suppose.
The icebergs are there all the time.
Well, not really,
Of course they are.
Are they?
What do you think they form in the winter and then melt in the summer?
Well, you know...
Like on a sort of a 12-month cycle.
It's much worse to have an iceberg around in the winter than the summer, I would imagine.
Why?
But anyway... Eh?
How are those penguins getting on, by the way?
The penguins...
the ones that are trapped by the iceberg.
Yep.
How's that going?
Well, they seem to have found a route through, as I think we have expanded on this very show.
Yes.
Now then, to tell you about the iceberg, the iceberg was huge when the Titanic sank.
We know that.
It was estimated at 400 feet long and up to 100 feet above the water, which must have given it an approximate mass of 1.5 million tons.
Wow.
That's what
that means. Presumably, if it was 100 feet above the water, then it would mean at least 700 feet below.
I was going to say 800. I think.
Yeah.
I think 1/9 appears above the top.
I thought it was an eighth.
Is it okay? Anyway, it says that almost certainly, according to scientists, the collision happened at a latitude of 41 degrees north, meaning the iceberg had floated from Greenland to a point further south than Cornwall.
Really?
How about that?
That's unusual, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if it hadn't melted by the time it got there, it's possible that it's still around then.
Yeah, exactly. It must have been melting into the sea for months beforehand. Based on the shrinkage of similar icebergs, it estimates it began life as a 1,700-foot-long iceberg with a mass of 75 million tons.
Right.
So I mean, that's amazing. That was the size. That's the size of a country.
A country?
Size of a country,
Are you sure?
Yeah, definitely,
It's a very small country.
No, it's the size of a country.
Let me read you this from Richard in Swindon. On this rare occasion, I agree with Porky the Plankmeister in that the long-term effects of microwave use are unknown. They are good for warming things up, but not proper cooking. The microwave bacon roll some establishments sell is the work of the devil.
Yes.
Well, I certainly wouldn't use a microwave to cook in.
No, I wouldn't either.
I mean, but I would use it to warm up things.
I wouldn't either. 1912 was the worst year ever for icebergs floating south.
Was it?
Further south than any icebergs before.
Nobody else hit one, did they?
No. Further south than any icebergs before or since. Isn't that amazing? How unlucky is that?
Yeah, it is unlucky.
My God.
Or negligence, I would say.
Yeah.
This is Talksport.
Drive on Talksport, the UK's only sports-dedicated drive time with Sky Sports. The sharpest analysis on all the day's action from the giants of sport.
Shane Warne is with us on the show. How you doing, Shane?
G'day, guys. How are you?
Laser-guided comment and rapid reaction from a nation of sports fanatics.
Into the corner of the net.
Drive home with Darren Goff and Adrian Durham.
Who else?
Weekday afternoons from 4 on Talk Sport with Sky Sports, the home of the Barclays Premier League.
Are you ready for the Cheltenham Festival? Betfair are giving you 3 free bets on day 1 every time you back a winner at 3-1 or higher. That's 3 free bets on every race on the first day of Cheltenham. So get ready for the exciting and the nail-biting. Get ready for the off. Visit Betfair today. Betfair. Tap, tap, boom.
Applies to day 1 races only. To win and win part of each way singles at 3-1 SP or more. First bet per race qualifies. 3 max, 3 match bets up to £25 each. Free bet stakes not returned. Exclusions and terms at betfair.com.
Take control of your game with the new and improved mobile betting experience from William Hill. This is our fastest in-play product yet, with easier access to your full range of in-play markets. And our new scoreboards give you in-depth stats and updates, so you can take it all in, then take control. Download the new and improved William Hill app now, with a 5-star rating from The Sun. When the fun stops, stop.
Still haven't signed up to Talksport's £1 Million football game? Why not? There's a million good reasons why you should. The Selco Predictor. Play to win
£1 million.
And a different prize every week.
This week, try to outpredict Didi Hamann, and you could win a state-of-the-art Toshiba Chromebook. Nice.
Download the Selco Predictor app now on your smartphone and use your football acumen to win great prizes. The Selco Predictor. Sign up for free now at talksport.com/predictor.
tense, nervous headache? Got a furious rash on your bottom that looks like Billy Bremner? Or maybe you just need a repeat prescription for steak slices? Then why not make an appointment to listen to the Weekend Sports Breakfast with senior consultant Georgie Bingham and Dr. Quinn, Medicine Scouser. Take both tomorrow morning from 7 on Talksport.
I would expect that, but then they're not that brilliant away from home, are they?
Yeah, but Norwich are absolutely hopeless at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to say Norwich 1, Manchester City 2.
OK.
Bournemouth against Swansea.
Bournemouth-Swansea, yeah. Bournemouth have run to a bit of form, delighted to say. They're a team that we'd like to keep in the Premier League, not at the expense of anybody else necessarily.
Well, you can't be all things to all men.
No, I would say Bournemouth 2, Swansea 0.
I've got Bournemouth 2, Swansea 1.
Right.
Stoke against Southampton.
Yeah.
Battle of the Red Stripes.
Yeah, Battle of the Red Stripes, all right. Stoke are up and down. Southampton trying to find a bit of form.
Stoke are not really up and down, are they?
Well, I'm afraid I've got to be a little bit sitting on the fence here. I'm going for 1-1.
Really?
Yes.
I'm going to say Stoke 2, Southampton 3.
Oh, right.
Because I think it could be a big scoring game. Aston Villa against Spurs. This, remember, is the game that Mauricio Pochettino rested all his players for.
That's right.
So I think he deserves to lose.
No, he won't. It'll be Aston Villa 0, Tottenham 4.
I'm going to say karma is going to get him. I'm going to say Aston Villa 2, Tottenham 1.
Nah, rubbish.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Leicester against Newcastle is on Monday night. Some people think it might be Steve McLaren's last game.
Yes, if he's still the manager when the game starts.
You think he might go before that?
Well, I think so, yeah, the way the things are building up. I'm going to say here that Newcastle will inherit the shambolic tide that they are riding around on at the moment, and it's going to be Leicester 4, Newcastle 1.
Yeah, I'm going 3-0.
Right.
So what would you like to place your certainty chip on? That's the yellow one.
My certainty chip goes on the Norwich-Manchester City City away game.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll just mark that on there.
Yes.
And then the one you're not so sure about, which is the green padlock.
Yeah.
Which one did you go for that?
That one would be, without a shadow of a doubt, Stoke and Southampton. I'm not sure who'll win that one.
Okay. All right. And you give me those and I'll fill them out for you.
Yes, good idea.
There was something I was going to tell you about, which came to my attention.
Yes.
Yeah. Are you a fan of jammy Dodgers?
No, not really.
Really?
They stick on my teeth.
Do they?
Yes, and also I find that when you're eating them, you're very aware of the huge amount of calorie within them, because not only is there the biscuit, but there's the sort of fruit gum type effect in the middle.
Do you eat a lot of biscuits then?
Yeah, but plain ones. Rich tea, malted milk, or digestive.
Right.
But not with chocolate on.
Not chocolate?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I don't really eat very many biscuits. Apparently there's a big row going on, right? Because they're the makers of jammy Dodgers are planning to put milk protein in them to give them a more rounded taste.
And what's wrong with that?
Well, apparently there's a 4,000 signature petition which has already been garnered because people say it's basically going to change the way they taste. And people are taking it terribly seriously.
Yeah.
Parents of allergic children are saying it will exclude youngsters from being able to eat it.
Really?
And people say that it's going to make the taste of it completely different, and people with allergies aren't going to be able to eat them. So it's a very bizarre kind of row that's going on.
Yeah, how very odd. Or odd. How very odd. Yeah.
The Vegan Society said the change feels like a backward step because, of course, a lot of vegans don't have any dairy.
Yeah, well, in my view, most vegans are eccentrics, so I don't really take a lot of notice of what they say. No, I don't.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you would be very surprised, wouldn't you, about when you find out what is in so many different things?
Yeah, of course you would.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember once, who was that guy? He worked mostly in California, but we met him in Costello's in New York. He came over to do a story on the East Coast or something. Yeah. And when he got to the airport, he was appalled to say that, I couldn't rent a bike. The bike movement was as big in those days as it is now.
Right.
So
he wanted to rent a bike in Manhattan?
Yeah, I wanted to rent a bike in Manhattan. So eventually found somewhere in the city to rent a bike. And he turned up in Manhattan. He turned up in Costello's in shorts and a like a singlet vest, trainers, a pack on his back, and came in and drunk distilled mineral water. He said he'd become a very serious vegan.
I have a vague remembrance of this, but I don't remember who he was.
I can't remember who it was either, but he was a crass bore who, when we'd previously seen him a year before, had been a bladderation merchant like everybody else, but now was not just a vegetarian. He was vegan, and he didn't.
Vegan.
Yeah, and he didn't.
Do you mean vegan?
Yeah, vegan. He didn't touch alcohol. He'd given
like
up
Suzanne
smoking.
Vegan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was they're just boring.
But
people.
it was very difficult in those days not to drink. I remember at one point or other, foolishly, I decided to go on a diet. Right. Well, I didn't decide. It was my ex-wife decided that we should both go on a diet. And she said, in order for me to go on one, you have to be supportive, so you have to go on one as well.
Yes.
And I was told I was allowed something like 1,500 calories a day.
Oh, God.
So I went into Costello's and basically worked out that if I had 3 of their vodka and grapefruit juices, that was 1,500 calories.
Yes.
So that was all I could drink.
Right.
So I thought, well, rather than only drink 3 drinks, I'm just going to go off it altogether.
Yeah.
But because of the way it was...
So what were you drinking in Costello?
I was drinking, like, lime juice and soda.
What was the point of going in there?
Well, because I didn't want to miss what was going on, right? Yeah. Because we always used to meet there every day. But the problem was that, as you remember, people would buy you drinks. You'd have drinks kind of stacked up.
Yeah, of course you would.
You'd have like 3 drinks on the bar.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I was drinking these copious amounts of lime juice and soda water, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and you put more weight on.
I'd have like 5 of them sitting there,
Ridiculous. How long did that last for?
I did it for a couple of weeks.
Exactly. I'm surprised you did it for a couple of weeks.
Here's one from World Traveller. He says, Porky says the iceberg that sunk the Titanic was 100,000 years old.
Yes.
And then he says, you don't see them in the summer.
Yeah, well, I mean, they just drift away, you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying.
Well, how did they not drift away in 100,000 years?
Well, I don't know, do I? I'm not an iceberg expert. I was just telling you what my scientific journals told me.
Yeah, okay.
By the way, you're talking about you went on a diet, right? Yeah. What about the report that says if you're tall or slim, you'll earn a lot more money during your life than if you're short and fat?
Yeah, well, that's probably true.
In the genetic lottery, slender women and tall men really do seem to have hit the jackpot after a huge study found that height and weight are critical to future earnings. So look at this one here. This is what they've done as a table.
Yeah.
At 5'3" your average salary throughout your life at the moment, 23,500.
Really?
If you're 6'3", the average salary throughout your life will be 29,500.
Really?
That is £6,000 a year more.
I wonder if that applies to footballers. I mean, there's quite a lot of small footballers that make a lot of money, aren't there? Lionel Messi, for one.
Joe Cole, remember?
Yeah, he
Joe
made
had
quite
a £100,000 a week deal at Chelsea. These people.
Eden Hazard,
you're absolutely right. Remember the guy from Oscar. Remember the guy from Middlesbrough when he came here? He was Britain's highest paid footballer.
For the Brazilian guy.
Yeah.
You
remember him?
Is it Juninho?
Juninho, he was about 5'1".
He was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Paolo Di Canio wasn't very tall.
Paolo Di Canio. Paolo Di Canio, Paolo Di Canio.
Why are you singing his name?
Well, only because I remember him getting off the bus at Sunderland when he was the manager, and it was so stage managed. It was his 3rd game as manager, and Everton were playing there, So we were all waiting as the Everton bus arrived, and then the Sunderland bus arrived. These days, you won't believe it, Mike, even home teams have a bus arrive. They keep the team in a hotel the night before.
No, well, that's very normal. I mean, when I went to see Chelsea with my son, we saw the bus coming
exactly,
in just as we were walking around the stadium.
Exactly.
He was very excited.
Well, the only one who don't do it is Arsenal. Arsenal players are still allowed to drive their own cars to the stadium.
Are they?
Yeah, but anyway, the point of the story is, so all the players came off one by one, and all the fans, hello, and then you could see on the bus what was happening. Di Canio was, got everybody off.
Yeah.
Then he said, you've got to wait 2 minutes, And then he sent the driver out to whip up the crowd, saying, the manager will be off in 90 seconds, and all that. And then when he come off and danced down the stairs, he pranced around, give me adulation, and all that. Oh, he was a pathetic creature, he really was.
Well, when we were at Bournemouth, right, and we saw the bus pull up just as we were arriving in the ground,
the Everton bus,
you went and stood and watched. I never saw Roberto Martinez getting off it.
I'm not sure if I did or not, to be honest.
No, he didn't. I mean, I didn't see him getting off it, unless he'd got off it first.
Yeah, he could have got off first. They sometimes do.
I don't think so, because I mean,
I'm running to the dressing room, make sure everything's all right,
Yeah, strange.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope you're ready for the Porky Quiz.
Oh, I'm ready.
Because it's coming up next.
Bring it on.
Let battle commence as the war cry goes up. 6 brave tribes will clash to lift the prized cup. Adrenaline will flow, sinew will strain. National pride stirs the blood in this ineffable game. Yet, who will triumph? Hold their line without fear. Find out on Talksport, because the 6 Nations is here.
This weekend, Talksport brings you regular updates on all the action and drama of the biggest competition in Northern Hemisphere rugby. 6 Nations updates throughout the tournament on Talksport.
Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes, and it is that time of the week that people seem to think is one of the more popular times of the week.
Indeed.
For the Porky Quiz.
Yes.
That's Hail to the Chief, of course.
That's Hail to the Chief.
We spoke about Nancy Reagan earlier in the week because she passed away a few days ago.
7 out of 9 last week on the Alley Quiz.
No, it was 6.5 out of 10, I think we find.
That's what you think.
No, that's what the score was. Now, you said that you wanted a quiz on the Reagans.
Yes.
Of course, you were in America during a large part of their tenure in the White House. Let's start with the Reagan quiz very shortly. However, before we do that, if you get one right, you will hear this sound.
You wanted law and order in this town. You've got it.
If you get one wrong, you'll hear this sound.
Pretty smart for a guy of 103, huh?
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, OK, that's all right.
So, you ready for question number 1?
Definitely.
Have you freed yourself of any aides de memoire?
I have no aides de memoire. I don't need them.
OK. The what?
I don't need them.
What did you say, though?
Aides de memoire.
Memoire.
Yeah.
Question number 1.
Yes.
When is Ronald Reagan Day in California?
Ronald Reagan Day in California, that would be on his birthday. Let me see now. He was born in 1911. It's July the 14th.
Incorrect.
Pretty smart for a guy of 103, huh?
February the 6th.
February the 6th, yeah. I
knew it was made into law by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It was what?
It was brought into law by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Is that his birthday?
Ronald Reagan Day, yeah. It is, yeah. Question number 2.
Right.
When did Reagan become a Republican?
Reagan became a Republican, in my view, in... He was a Democrat for many years, and he changed over, I believe, in... I'm going to say... He got married... Oh, right. I'm going to say 1949.
Incorrect.
No!
Pretty smart for a guy of 103, huh?
1962.
1962?
Yeah. That's none out of 2. Question number 3. Where is the Ronald Reagan Memorial Library?
It's in a place called... Well, it's in California.
Yeah, I can't give you that.
And it's a place called Simi, S-I-M-I. Simi Hill, California.
I'll give you that.
Thank you.
Simi Valley.
Simi Valley,
California.
yes.
You wanted law and order in this town.
There are those who would say you should only get half a point for that, but I'll give you 1 for that. 1 out of 3.
Yes.
Question number 4. Nancy Reagan started her acting career in 1949.
Yeah.
Can you name the first 2 films she had supporting roles in?
1949, 2 supporting films.
You can get half a point if you get one of them.
1949 films.
Yeah.
One was called, hang on, thinking aloud, just thinking aloud here, thinking aloud. Actually, I knew that 1962, that he went to the Democrat. It was 1949 that he joined the blinking Democrats. And 1962 he changed to Republican.
Are you reading the wrong bit of paper?
No, I'm not reading the wrong bit of paper. My thought pattern was a bit confused. Now then, thinking aloud.
All right.
One of them was called The Westerner.
Are you going to give me another one?
Right, the other one. Right, that's the one. I got that right. The other one was called The Westerner. The other one was called... Let me see. It was called...
I'll have to hurry you.
Yeah, it was called... yeah, I know what it was called. Yeah, it was called... it was something like Blackberry Way.
Absolutely incorrect on both
Pretty
of them.
smart for a guy of 103, huh?
They were The Doctor and the Girl and East Side, West Side.
East Side, West Side.
So that's 1 out of 4.
That's a pretty stupid question, to be honest. I mean, largely irrelevant.
As you know, I don't set the questions.
Yeah, I mean, so far we've had ridiculous questions, and he was president of the United States for 8 years.
Yeah.
We got through 4 questions, not a word about his presidency yet.
Oh.
Not a question.
Well, question number 5.
Dopey questions, yeah?
When and where did Ronald Reagan utter these words?
Tear down this wall.
He uttered those words at the Brandenburg Gate.
Yes.
And...
When?
Exactly a year and a half before the wall came down. So that must have been 1987.
Any idea of the date?
Not precisely.
Okay. Well, I'll give you that. It's June the 12th, 1987, Brandenburg Gate.
Thank you.
West Berlin.
Thank you.
You wanted law and order in this town.
Wow, I mean, that shows incredible knowledge, in my view.
2 out of 5. I wouldn't call that incredible knowledge.
Yes.
Question number 6.
Yes.
Who was best man at the Reagans' wedding in March 1952?
He was a very famous actor called... Now, thinking aloud here, it sounds the same... No, it's not William Shatner, right? Thinking aloud. William Shatner was Captain Kirk... Sorry. What's your problem?
Sorry.
William Shatner was the actor in Star Trek. He was Captain Kirk.
He was indeed.
And it wasn't him.
No.
But it was it was William somebody. It was William, right? Thinking aloud here.
I can't give you any assistance
here. I know. It sounded like that poker game. Texas Hold'em. It was William Holden.
You're cheating, aren't you?
No.
There's no way that your brain works like that.
William Holden.
Where have you got that written?
I haven't got it written anywhere, you idiot.
Why are you smiling?
Because I've foxed you, because I remember the...
Is that that's the way your brain works? So first you think about William Shatner,
yes.
Then you think about poker.
Yes.
No, I don't believe you.
Well,
I don't believe you.
William Holden.
I'll give you the point, but that gives you...
You've got it.
Well, what are you trying to insinuate?
Well, I'm saying that nobody has that thought process.
I do.
I don't think so.
I've got a unique thought process, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that gives you 3.
Four.
No, it gives you 3 out of 6. Question number 7.
Right.
And what were the names of their children? And these have to be precise.
Of the 2 children that he and Nancy had, Ronald Jr., thinking aloud. Now, he had 5 children altogether, so I'll just run through some names. Ronald Jr., Michael, Margaret... hang on one sec.
You have to hurry.
His daughter was a campaign leader for him. Right, I'll have to go for Michael, the son of Ronald Reagan and Nancy, and... The daughter was Michael and began with D. So something like Dawn or
Doris.
No, it wasn't Doris. No, thinking aloud. What did you say, Doris?
Just hurry up.
Trying to get me off the
No, just hurry
right,
up.
Okay, Michael and
come on.
Michael and Margaret.
Incorrect.
Pretty smart for a guy of 103, huh?
There's Patty and Ronald Prescott Reagan.
Well, I said Ronald Jr.
No, you didn't. You said Michael.
Thinking aloud, I said Ronald Jr.
Doesn't count. Question number 8.
Yes.
What was the name of Reagan's assistant who was shot and permanently disabled during the assassination attempt in 1981?
Well, he was put in a wheelchair because he was shot in the head. And... I don't think his name was Vince, but I think it could have been Vince. I'm thinking aloud here. Vince, of course, was the guy who died during the Clinton era. It'd be very unusual. Right, this happened in Washington, D.C. I'm going to have to say Vince Powell.
Incorrect.
No.
Pretty smart for a guy of 103, huh?
James Brady. You would have thought you'd know that because the Brady Bill was named after him, which was a gun control bill.
I know, and the Brady Bunch was a good film.
Yeah, nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Question number 9.
Right.
Who was the famous UPI White House correspondent who always sat in the front row and wore a red jacket at all Reagan press conferences?
Yes.
You must have sat next to her at various moments.
I think I did. I think I met her in the Oval Office. And I'm thinking aloud now. Her name was Martha. I'm trying to think of her surname. We all knew her as Martha. Thinking aloud. Martha... It wasn't Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, but it was Martha...
Martha, my dear?
No, Martha... it was... her name was Martha Clattenburg.
Martha Clattenburg.
Yes.
Incorrect.
Pretty smart for a guy of 103, huh?
It was Helen Thomas.
Yeah, I knew.
Final question, number 10.
Right, okay.
Have a listen to this.
My friends, we did it. We weren't just marking time. We made a difference. We made the city stronger. We made the city freer. And we left her in good hands. All in all, not bad. Not bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
When did he make that speech?
When did he make that speech?
Yeah. I need a specific date.
Specific dates. That would have been his resignation speech when he stepped down. Not resignation, because he had to step down after 8 years. So that would have been, in fact, 1990/91. Well, you stepped down in 90. The inauguration was 91. 1990.
Incorrect.
No.
Pretty smart for a guy of 103, huh?
January 11th, 1989. He was in for 8 years from 1980.
Yes.
So you got that wrong because he counted 11 years. So you got 3 out of 10, which is exactly as I predicted.
So I was 1 year out.
3 out of 10. Oh, no. Well, yeah, you were wrong.
Do I get half a point for that?
Huh?
I was only a few months out.
No, you were a year out.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, you were.
What month was it in 89?
It was in January of 89.
January 89. Do you know what? I don't know why I didn't calculate that right. I knew the answer. I knew the answer. I just miscalculated.
You don't get anything for knowing the answer and saying the wrong one.
No, I just miscalculated.
3 out of 10. Pretty miserable, I would say, for somebody who's an expert on the Reagans.
Oh, no, not a good one.
Back to normal, I'm afraid, on the Porky Quiz. That was the Porky Quiz. There'll be another one same time next week.
No.
Colin Murray, weekday mornings from 10 on Talksport with Wix. Every weekday morning, get opinionated comment.
Didn't play? No, exactly. I think I've played more for Spurs than he has.
Exclusive interviews.
Usain Bolt.
I always know what I need to do, so when I go there, I just get it done.
And unmissable debate.
People in the street like me, and that's enough. Yeah, that's what all losers say.
From the biggest names in sports broadcasting every day.
Unbelievable, breathtaking stuff.
Colin Murray, weekday mornings from 10 on Talksport with Wix. Let's do it right.
Sky Bet.
And as they turn into the final straight, he's moving away as they approach the last flight. And he's down! He's fallen at the last.
Whatever happens at the Cheltenham Festival, the first race is on us. Every day, money back as a free bet if you lose the first race. For new and existing customers, Sky Bet. It's betting better. 18 plus. Gambleaware.co.uk. Selected markets and eligibility restrictions. T's and C's apply. When the fun stops, stop.
You are thinking about eating a family bucket of chicken by yourself.
Look, you can't read minds or predict the future.
Can.
What am I thinking then?
About leaving me on the hard shoulder.
Yeah. OK, what are tonight's lottery numbers?
I only use my gift for good. Oh, the car in front is going to stop. Now.
Tar.
You were going to say that.
The Toyota Yaris. Now available with Toyota Safety Sense pre-collision system. 0% APR representative and £900 towards your deposit.
It's like having a psychic friend.
Only better.
Toyota. Always a better way. Available on new Yaris, excluding active when flexibly financed through Toyota Financial Services. Conditions apply. Finance subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Participating centres only.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talk Sport.
Later this month, we're launching Talksport 2, a new 24-hour sports radio station focusing on live sport. The very first Talksport 2 broadcast will take place live from Sky Bet's box at the Cheltenham Festival on Tuesday, the 15th of March. And thanks to Sky Bet, you could be there.
That's absolutely right. If you'd like to be there for the first ever Talksport 2 broadcast with full hospitality treatment at Cheltenham for the day, go to talksport.com/win and enter right now. And don't forget to retune your DAB radio so you don't miss out on our array of exciting new stations.
Go to talksport.com/retune for more details. It's amazing that Cheltenham's come around so fast, isn't it?
Well, it does come around fast because once you've got Christmas out the way, the only thing you look forward to in the sporting world is Cheltenham, to be honest.
Really?
Well, there's a bit of a hiatus in the football season until you get to this.
We've had the League Cup final.
Yeah, the League Cup final.
Well, of course,
certainly.
Everton should have been in that.
Yeah, of course.
If it wasn't for Raheem Sterling.
Yeah, exactly. But then you get to the sort of semi-finals of the FA Cup, and if you remember, the Champions League course has only just started up again after the sort of winter break, so to speak. And so you look forward to Cheltenham. And Cheltenham's such a magnificent occasion anyway.
Yes.
It is, of all the sporting occasions you've been to, like an international game at Wembley, the FA Cup final, Formula 1 motor racing or whatever, Cheltenham just stands out, A, for its longevity, and B, its sort of diversity of people that it attracts.
Yes.
And the whole atmosphere and things that go on there. It's wonderful.
It is wonderful. And we're going on Friday.
We're going a week tomorrow?
Yeah, a week today.
A week today. Sorry, a week today. We are, definitely. Gold Cup Day. Two great things. Gold Cup Day.
Yeah.
Victoria Pendleton's running.
Yes.
We'll be starring in a slot in
she's riding, really, isn't she? She's not running.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. And we'll be starring in a slot in the H&J show.
Yeah. Well, we'll be popping in.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's starring.
Well, no, in that particular slot we'll be starring.
Well, we won't be starring. No, we'll just be on the show, along with lots of other people.
Yes, we will, yes. But I mean,
I don't want me to give the impression that we're the stars of their show.
No, I didn't say that.
You said we'd be starring.
In the slot that we're in, we will be starring in that slot.
Really?
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Okay?
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
How about this from Kevin?
Oh, yes?
Who says, what a load of old tosh. Gerrymandered questions, MG. You fix this worst by the week to try and make Porky look silly.
Yeah.
Absolutely not true.
Yeah. No, I abide
First of
by
all,
that.
as I'm getting very tired of reminding everybody, I have nothing to do with the setting of the questions.
And who does?
The independent quizmasters.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You know, I communicate to them what it is that the questions are on.
Independent
and then they select them. And I mean, by the way, last week you did quite well, and so the idea that he says I'm fixing it worse by the week is nonsensical.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is,
and you, by your own admission, you actually knew two of the answers, but you gave them wrong.
Yeah.
So you might have got 5 out of 10 if you'd actually remembered to do them the right way.
Yeah, I knew 1962 and I knew 1989, but the problem is because you asked the question in such a convoluted way.
So it's the way I asked the questions. Now.
Not enough of them were.
So when I say
about his presidency,
so when I say when did something happen, that's confusing to you, is it?
Well, the way you stage the questions,
really?
It is really a duplicitous exercise that you employ.
Not at all. Absolutely
in these things.
No, I think you're very unfair in saying that.
Well, I don't.
Here's one from someone who I think tweeted you earlier on in the day. I don't know whether you saw their tweet.
Oh, yes.
And he doesn't give his name on the text that he sent in to 81089. He says, what? No question on the Reagan film after I sent Porky a link to the info? At first I didn't believe it, MG, but this is gerrymandering of the highest order.
It certainly is.
Porky, I suggest you get your Russian friends to look into this ASAP. Perhaps some strychnine in the independent question master's tea.
Do you know why he was called the Gipper? Because he was called the Gipper all the way through.
One for the Gipper. Well, it was from one of the movies, wasn't it?
It was called Canute, believe it or not, Knute.
Well, the Gipper was like a sports movie, wasn't it?
No, well, yeah, but I mean, the guy was Frank the Gipper Gip.
Yeah,
and he played that, and that's
he
why
was
an
American footballer. Wasn't he?
That's right. Yeah, and they called him the Gipper all the way through. So it's quite interesting. That he was quite an interesting man.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, because I like to familiarise myself with the subject matter.
Oh, yes.
I did watch a couple of his speeches.
Oh, really?
He, I mean, the difference in you might say nowadays nobody would sort of fall for the kind of schmaltz that he was purporting to everybody.
Yes.
But I mean, he did actually make people feel very proud of their country.
He was the great communicator. He really was.
And when he was, like that passage at the end there about the shining city on the hill.
Yes.
We made the city safer. We made it better.
Yeah.
We made ourselves proud to be an American.
That's right.
And he also said something like, and if your parents are not teaching you about how to be a good American, you tell them to start doing it right now, or there's going to be trouble. I mean, he did have a very folksy way about it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Whether you liked his politics or not.
I think I must be having the onset of flu because my thinking pattern has been rather restricted.
The onset of flu?
Yeah. Listen, I'll tell you what
What's that got to do with anything?
Well,
is that your excuse then?
Yeah, it is a bit. I am feeling very fluey, believe me, and I haven't had flu this winter, so I'm rather disappointed. Look, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Do you get these people coming up to you on trains leaving bits of packets of tissues on your table?
What?
Packets of tissues on your table?
No.
Yeah, I do, all the time.
Mind you, I don't travel on the train that much anymore.
Well, even on the tube, they leave them on the seats and all that.
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, they do. They come up and they leave a packet of tissues on your table or on your seat next to you.
Are these the people that are asking for money?
Yes.
You've told me about these people before.
Yeah, with a card on the top.
Yeah.
And I thought initially that these people were like deaf and dumb.
Yeah.
Literally, because they never say anything. They just put the card on like that. I thought, these poor people.
What does the card say?
It says, if you purchase these tissues for a sum of, around about £1 or something like that.
Yeah.
They cost 50p in a shop, and all that kind of stuff. You'll be contributing to whatever. Anyway, I saw a report only today saying it's another Romanian gangster scam. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, this is Talksport. We are the Two Mikes.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mikes at the Two Mikes on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mikes TV.
Why don't you have a couple of pigs living in your garden?
Well, I wouldn't mind having pigs in the garden.
No, thank you.
Pigs are great.
They're not. They roll around in mud, literally.
No, but
that's
they're
what they
very,
do.
very intelligent creatures.
Well, they might be intelligent, maybe. I wouldn't have pigs, grunting around in my garden.
We haven't got a garden.
Well, I always help with the poppy appeal and that kind of stuff.
How do you help?
I used to go and encourage those who went out with the cans.
Encourage them how?
Pat them on the back.
If you love the Two Mikes podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the Talksport app. Talksport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
Talksport.
Pretty smart for a guy of 103, huh?